Welcome back to another FPL reaction stream. We'll look ahead to Game Week 10 and discuss all the action over this weekend, and that concludes Game Week 9. It had a very good start to me personally, or great start for me, should I say, but it did tail off towards the very end, and that late Salah equaliser did actually lose me quite a bit of ground in the rankings, and I've now dropped out of the top 1 million from where I was on Friday, where things were looking really strong after a Chris Wood brace. He has definitely been the star of the show for me this week and probably since Game Week 1. One of my best picks, really, to start a season that I've done in a very long time. But I did sell Saka, and I always had that kind of feeling he would start against Liverpool. He scored, and we'll see how he does in terms of the bonus points, but he's a very strong asset, of course. Gabriel is injured. That's something to definitely monitor. And with Jacob Greaves probably out for the next month or so, I think a defensive reinforcement is needed in my backline, even if Gabriel is able to play against Newcastle, but it's not looking too good. He had some ice, of course, on the area, which was causing him some concern. He was subbed off, and I think once that happened, Liverpool did smell blood. Get your questions and comments in as always, and let's delve into your questions and cover everything you need to know ahead of Game Week 10. But of course, it's kind of an initial reaction, and towards the end, you know, when we get closer to the Game Week 10 deadline, we can have a more informed opinion, so I can give you definitive answers on some of the best questions for FPL. Sold Saka for Bruno, amazing, 58 points so far. Yeah, I'll be honest, when people ask me, should I sell Saka for this player, I'm pretty sure I said in the deadline stream, you know, Foden, I would do that move, and of course I did it myself. Before the Son injury, I would have also recommended him as a short-term punt. Cole Palmer, of course, is definitely a very good option in the long term as well. But apart from those sorts of players, and of course Salah, I really found myself advising people not to do it. And with Bruno Fernandes, I know he's had a few moments and great underlying stats, but it just doesn't seem to be a season at the moment. And I personally just wouldn't go for Bruno Fernandes in general. But it could still pay off for you because United have a great set of fixtures after Chelsea at home. And in that period between Game Week 11 to 13, I think the likes of Bruno Fernandes can do very well. So hopefully that pays off for you. I had so much anxiety watching the last couple of minutes watching us against Arsenal. Really? I'm not sure at what point you said that, because towards the end of the game, I just thought Liverpool would go on to win it. I mean, Arsenal had Lewis Skelly, Kivior, White and Partey as a back four, which is insane considering the other options. I know Zinchenko was available, they could have gone for him, but Zinchenko against Salah is a bloodbath anyway, so I think that would have been even worse. 71 points with triple captain, it's so over. Not necessarily, 71 points is decent. I know with the triple captaincy, it's a bit underwhelming, but no, I don't really think that. I think a few people in the Discord server also asked me, you know, triple captaining Haaland, is my season over? I personally just don't think so. The triple captaincy chip is very overrated. To put into context, I played on Haaland in Game Week 2. He scored a hat-trick. I was flying in Game Week 3, and now look where I am, around 1.3 million. So the triple captaincy chip, of course, is useful, but it's not that big in the grand scheme of things. Patrick says, hi Dylan, great week for me, 76 points. Well played, should I say. Bought Whistle for Joao Pedro this week and glad I kept Saka. Do you know how bad Gabriel's injury was? Well, really, I have no idea of how bad it's going to be. You might suspect that he could be out for a couple of weeks, but we just don't know enough about the injury. We'll see what Arteta says, although you can't really trust him. I think it might be a muscle issue, and the fact that Gabriel, who is pretty much always available, the fact that he had to come off in such a crucial game, and then Kivior had to come on, I think it is quite serious, and he might miss the Newcastle game and perhaps even Chelsea. So, yeah, I'm not really feeling too positive about the Gabriel situation, but it might look better in a couple of days' time. Sell Rodgers and Haaland for Salah and Cunha for -4, or just roll and keep Haaland. I can understand why you're looking to do that. I think Salah looks like the better FPL asset than Haaland at this moment in time. That could easily switch the other way around in a couple of weeks, but I think Salah's been really consistent. That's another double-digit haul for him, 10 points against Arsenal. That's his 6th of the season, by the way, in terms of 10-plus points in a single game week. I'd probably say no simply because it's a -4 hit, but if it was for free, I'd definitely say yeah. And I'm looking at something similar myself, actually. Nice stuff, Cylindra, really good. Easy says, looks like my wildcard decision pays off. Gets 67 points, then 24 last week, and from 6.3 million, ranked to 5.4. with 475 points. Yeah, there's not really much separating the ranks, so even if you're still struggling, there's still a lot of games to be played, a lot of points to really chase, and I do think it's attainable to get to the rank you want to be. It might look unlikely now, but I'd still be quite positive. Was on a green arrow the whole game week till Salah scored. Yeah, I was on a very comfortable green arrow until Salah did Salah things. But, I'm kind of happy it was only one goal and Liverpool didn't go on to win the game because, like I said, with the situation Arsenal had and also the momentum of the game, I really thought Liverpool would go on to win. What a week, man, says Sodnika. Is it time to sell Spurs assets? I've got Johnson and Solanke and they're stinking up my team. Well, you are a Tottenham fan, so you might be in a better place to tell us. I always thought Palace Spurs will be low scoring. My prediction was 1-1, actually. And it's kind of typical, right, for Palace to get their first Premier League win of the season against Tottenham. But over the next two game weeks, I think it's worth holding your Spurs assets if possible. But Solanke, he's not looking like a great asset right now. I think he'll become a decent option later this season, but I think after Ipswich, he's a very easy sell out of Man City. And I just don't see him getting any bonus points, really, except for game week 11 in that Plum home fixture. So ultimately, I'd look to sell both in game week 12. But for now, you maybe hold and focus your transfers elsewhere. I transferred in Son for Saka, so I got both bench players out instead. Yeah, that's very unlucky. That's why early transfers can backfire sometimes, although I understand why a lot of people maybe went early. Saka, look, I thought he'd play, but there was still a bit of doubt in my mind, and I used the orange flag plus the next three fixtures in general, which included Liverpool, as an excuse to really, go aggressive and go for Phil Foden, and it just hasn't worked out so far. But I think Foden can score against Bournemouth and Brighton, and in fact, I would consider him for the captaincy over Haaland in the next week or so. Easy99 says, it's not worth it to triple captain in single game week. Double game week is good opportunity with double points. Need to understand the consequences because it will only can be used once. You make a good point, but this season is different because we'll likely get fewer double game weeks than the previous campaigns. I'm not sure exactly how many doubles we even get, but the free hit chip, for example, would be more powerful in a double game week than, let's say, for example, the triple captaincy or even the bench boost. That's another really solid chip for a double game week. But of course, anything looks better when you've got two games instead of one. And of course, I gave that example of doing really well with the triple captaincy this season. I think that's actually the first time I used it in a single game week on Erling Haaland. And of course, he did very well. In recent years, of course, I've mainly used in doubles and they've been very underwhelming. So it can go both ways, of course. And ultimately, you need a lot of luck. So imagine you use triple captaincy on Haaland for double game week and he scores once against Southampton at home. Yes, but Erling Haaland might not get a double game week this season. And even if he does, there could be a bit more rotation and the minutes being managed for key players, including Haaland, by that stage. So I wouldn't really regret it. I think it's a good decision, bad outcome. His XG was over 2. Haaland missed some big chances and ultimately he should have scored 2 or 3. So I think they're a bit unfortunate. Sell Gabriel and Garnacho for Saka and Van Dijk or Konate. I'd keep Gabriel for now and just wait for more updates. But if he is out, yeah, of course, with Garnacho, I still like him a lot for the next 4 game weeks. And he's someone I've recommended recently. I definitely wouldn't be selling him ideally. But to go to, yeah, Saka, of course, it makes sense. I'd actually rather have Garnacho, though, over the next 3 game weeks over Saka. But it also depends on who you have in the defence, of course, in this case. I think from the options you're talking about in defence, though, I'd go for Konate over Van Dijk. Just remember the Ballon d'Or ceremony is tomorrow. I didn't even know that. And to be honest, I think it's quite, irrelevant, I guess. I think we all know who's going to win it. And it's pretty underwhelming compared to recent years. But of course, it's understandable with the Champions League win. Should I bring in Saka now? Well, Saka is just a great long-term hold in general for people. And he's someone you kind of have in your team and just forget about it. But I think the best time to buy Saka will be game week 12 or 13. I wouldn't be looking to buy him against Newcastle and Chelsea away. I know Newcastle have looked very shaky defensively and just in general, they've had a pretty poor start. But I don't see Arsenal scoring many goals in those away games. I think they'll be very tight. For example, Arsenal-Newcastle could easily be 0-0 or 1-0 either side. So I'd actually think with Saka, you buy him in game week 12. I'm not sure I could sell Solanke and Johnson for him and bring in Wissa. Yeah, of course, there's a lot of things we could do. Cunha is definitely on radar for me. I highlighted him last week as a buy. So, yeah, there's a lot of good options up front. Yeah, Chris Wood came off of an injury, but he said in his in his post-match interview that he's fine. I'm not really too worried about that. I know players tend to kind of say stuff like that, and they're raring to go for the next match, but unless something happens over the next few days, I think Chris Wood is fine. He'll play against West Ham. McNeil, I think, is just a knock. I don't know the exact quotes by Sean Dyche, but I believe it's nothing serious either. With both players, I'd be very confident in terms of Chris Wood and McNeil that they'll start in the next Premier League game. 71 points, good stuff. 86 points as well. Some really high scores flying around. I bench Vardy, took out Saka for Foden. Yeah, look, sometimes FPL can be like this. I think in a lot of scenarios, I did suggest benching Vardy for other players, and I don't really regret saying that. But yeah, Vardy, of course, is a Premier League legend, and it was a high-scoring game. I did not expect that. I actually thought it would be 1-1 or something like that. But yeah, Friday was actually very entertaining. Do I sell Son or hold? I'd hold him. It was not a serious injury. He should be available against Villa and Ipswich. Afterwards, you could sell him, but he's also got a good record against Man City. But I think Saka and Palmer are better options long term. They're the ones you want to have in your structure, or even Salah. If you go about Haaland, for example, you could have all three of them at the same time. I don't think so. I think the best time to do that move would be Game Week 12. I think Foden outscores Saka over the next two. Maybe not enough, though, to make the move, justified in the first place. So far, Saka is winning. I always want Bowen in my team. I think you do as well, but there's no nice timing to get him in. Yeah, that's a good point. I think West Ham don't have a continuous run of fixtures that look amazing, but very fortunate with the penalty today. I only saw it twice. Maybe some people will argue the other way, but I think it shouldn't have been a penalty. And the fact that I went to, the referee going up to the monitor, very, very surprising. Bought Son to Saka, 8-point deficit, still 58. Yeah, decent score. Of course, a lot of high scores flying around, but yeah, with the Son thing, it's very unfortunate. And he just came back from an injury. There's always that risk, but I don't think anybody expected him to miss out against Palace before the press conference Ange Postecoglou gave on Friday. Had to make an early transfer already. Did Son to Salah over Saka? Yeah, I'd buy Salah over Saka right now as well. And maybe in Game Week 12 you can buy Saka to partner Salah in the midfield. But then you've also got a few other options like Palmer that you might want to go for too. Well, not necessarily because we don't know the full extent of the injury, but based on my gut feeling of how the injury will be, yeah, I think he'll miss Newcastle and Chelsea, and if that's the case, I think he is going to be a sell. Triple captaincy chip wasted this week. Here we go again next season. Yeah, but look, once again, I have to say this. I think the triple captaincy chip is very overrated, and yeah, this is for example, this season is the best time I've used it in terms of getting 17 points from my triple captain, but I'm still kind of struggling a little bit. And it's the worst chip of them all. The free hit, bench boost, wildcard are far more powerful, especially in the case of the wildcard. Sell Foden to Palmer. I think Palmer is the better FPL asset, but once again, over the next two game weeks, it's about timing as well. Could you not delay this move to Game Week 12 when Palmer has a great fixture run? I think Palmer will do really well against United away this week, but against Arsenal at home, it's not a guaranteed haul unless Gabriel misses out, and of course the other injuries also rear its ugly head. But yeah, ultimately, I think Palmer is the better option. When people ask me, should I go from Saka to Foden or Palmer, I said in every single scenario, I'd go to Palmer because long term, I know I'd want him in the team. Havertz to Cunha, Wood or Raul. If I'm buying one right now, it'd be Cunha. So I'll stick with my answer from the Friday deadline stream. I know Chris Wood was insane against Leicester, but I still think with Nottingham Forest's fixtures turning for the worse very soon, I think Wood can still do well, but Cunha's ceiling looks higher with those promising fixtures. What to do with DCL? It's tricky because he's got Southampton away. He'll probably do something this week, but ultimately he's a sell. So it's up to you whether you do it this week or in Game Week 10, but I think Cunha, Wissa, Jimenez, even Delap, who was benched yesterday, and many other forwards would be even better. I'd even go as far to say Strand Larsen would be a viable transfer. I think Solanke is pretty much in sell territory, but you could keep him for the next two game weeks and then sell in Game Week 12. I agree with you. It was a play in robbery, never a pen. I mean, it's another day, another set of decisions that just completely baffle us, but we're supposed to accept it, right? Best 6-point family and midfielder. Still Garnacho and McNeil for me. I'll stick with my answer from Friday. Welcome, Biddy. Sahil says, wish I captained Mbeumo over Foden, but I got 70 points anyway. Very strong. And it was a 50-50 decision. It makes sense, though, to captain Foden. He had a really good performance in midweek. He won player of the match in UCL Fantasy, and he's facing Southampton at home. City really should have scored 3 or 4, and Erling Haaland was a big culprit. Cunha or Wissa in? Probably Cunha. You've probably got Mbeumo in your team anyway, so I'd rather go for that sort of setup, but I wouldn't mind Wissa and doubling up. But I think Cunha's got better fixtures longer term. For the next 8 game weeks, Wolves are top of the fixture difficulty rating. So that answers this question as well by Arians Ha. Foden to Palmer this week. I'll probably say no. I think Palmer is the better option, and ultimately you should do it, but not necessarily this week. Bruno to Saka, says Arthur. Wait, you did the other way round? I'm not sure, but yeah. I think Saka... I think so. I think I would do it. Now, the only kind of saving grace is that Bruno's fixtures from game weeks 11 to 13 are so good, you might want to give him a chance, but by that stage, it could be too late, and Saka could haul against Forest, despite how good they are. I have Palmer, Salah, and Haaland in my team. Yeah, but you could make a case for going without Haaland based on recent performances and the way FPL is shaping up to be. I think Salah, Palmer, Saka are the best free premiums right now. Of course, Haaland is still scoring a lot of points, but it's a question of value and how much money he takes up, because going for Saka instead, for example, also allows you to go for Trent at the back and a really strong 50-man squad. Considering the international calendar, which is a good game week to do a complete overhaul of the team, game week 12 is pretty good during an international break. The fixture swings as well, and the timing of some of the teams you want to pile up on would be very promising on paper anyway. Game weeks 14, 16, and 18 are also decent, but I think right now, game week 12 looks very promising. Sell Foden or Johnson to get Salah? I'd rather sell Johnson if I had to pick one, but he does face Ipswich Town in game week 11. I think Spurs win that by 3 or 4. It might even be like a 5-1 sort of game, and I think Johnson can get something, but he is a sell ultimately, I think, by game week 12. Is Aït-Nouri a buy? Yes. I didn't say it last week because he was facing Brighton, and I just didn't think he'd do something, but of course he scored the first goal. Yeah, I think he is a relatively easy buy. I don't see a clean sheet against Palace, and not necessarily against Southampton, but the goal and assist threat is far too good. At 4.5 million, I'm looking to buy him myself, especially if Gabriel's injured. Of course he is injured, but if he's out, should I say. How about just have the front three of Raul, Cunha and Wood? Well, yeah, but there's also Ollie Watkins, right? Ollie Watkins... Apologies, by the way, I got like an insect that's kind of pissing me off. Yeah. I think, yeah, Ollie Watkins eventually from game week 12, once again, a very good game week to wildcard and make some kind of moves. But that front three looks fairly decent, actually, for the next couple. There will be times where Erling Haaland goes ballistic, then you're saying, did I make the wrong call here? But if you look at the first 9 game weeks of this season, I don't think Haaland is essential, and I've always said that. Keep Johnson or sell to Mbeumo. A bit tricky this week because Mbeumo faces Fulham away, and I think that could be quite tough. I think last season Mbeumo got a double-digit haul at Craven Cottage, but I think ultimately I would do it. Mbeumo is an upgrade in general, and even when Brentford's fixtures turn for the worse, I'd still like to have him. I still think they are worth it, mate. So once Alisson's back, or when Liverpool's fixtures turn for the better, Trent just offers great value. He got the pre-assist today, which obviously doesn't result in points, but the potential is always there. I think Trent will go big at some stage very soon, probably Southampton away in a couple of weeks' time. Gabriel, when he's fit, is still a really good choice, especially when Arsenal get their key players back from injury. I think they'll get a lot of clean sheets later in the season. So I still think they are worth it, but maybe not right now. I'd probably say from game week 12 onwards. Gabriel for who? Perhaps Aït-Nouri. And Trent Gvardiol, so Haaland could cover him with Salah, Palmer, Saka. Yeah, look, I'm considering it myself, to be fair, and I do think I've been really dependent on Haaland all season, and that's something I've never liked, even when I was doing well in the first 3 game weeks. So I'm not against that. I'm really not. Against Bournemouth and Brighton away, he could get a goal or 2, but he's been very underwhelming recently. Yes, true, Aït-Nouri's on 4 yellow cards, Palmer's also on 3, Jackson is another one, so you've got to be careful with these picks, but if you've got squad depth, I don't think that's an issue. 69 points, Constantly didn't keep the clean sheet, but Mbeumo, Palmer, Wood and Salah paid off, but Haaland might not be worth captaining. Well, I always saw the last couple of weeks as Haaland being the prime captaincy option on paper, but against Bournemouth, Brighton and Tottenham, not necessarily. I think you can go against them. But look, now that Salah looks like the better choice in Game Week 10 against Brighton, it might be Haaland doing the business instead. Aït-Nouri or Konate? I'd go for Aït-Nouri right now, as long as you've got defensive depth to kind of cover. He is injury prone and there is a risk of suspension at some stage. Van de Ven versus Ipswich. My prediction right now would be 5-1 Spurs against Ipswich, or maybe 4-1, so not really. I'll consider this over the week and give you a definitive answer, but even from before the Southampton game, where I expected a Haaland brace or hat-trick, I was really thinking about selling him. So yeah, the performance against the Saints on Saturday doesn't really fill me with confidence anyway. I am really considering it, that's all I can say. So yeah, this is what I mean. Like, I said this in the Friday deadline stream. If Haaland doesn't do too well against Southampton, a lot of people will discuss selling him in Game Week 10. It's natural, and he's far too expensive for what he's delivering recently. I mean, the form he showed in the first 5 game weeks was insane and well worth the 50 million, but ever since, he has been very underwhelming. Keep Rodgers. I still like him, but in terms of fixtures, you could maybe go aggressive and go for McNeil, who is an injury doubt, but I think he'll be fine. Garnacho, if you can stretch to him, would also be very promising. But I wouldn't do something like Rodgers to Smith Rowe. Despite Fulham having better fixtures, I think you keep what you have ultimately and focus your transfers elsewhere. Sell Gabriel or Trent to fund a move for Salah. Well, based on the potential injury, I'd rather sell Gabriel. But wait first for any updates and then we can reassess. As a Liverpool fan, I have to admit that a draw was a pretty good result. Arsenal probably deserved that win. I think a draw was fair, but yeah, I think the Gabriel injury did change the momentum. I think Liverpool smelled blood, and once Timber also went off, I just knew Liverpool would score. And then when that happened, I thought they'd go on to win the game. So yeah, I think 2-2 was a fair result, to be fair. Mavididi in this game week 10, I would definitely not be buying him. No. If you've got Mavididi, you might hold, but I think there are better options elsewhere. Buonanotte, for example, Rodgers, Smith Rowe, and of course McNeil. Selling Haaland doesn't justify the upside. I will just switch my captaincy. Yeah, I think one key reason why Haaland has been so popular is because normally he's kind of a set and forget captain, so he removes that equation from you and that decision every single week, but he hasn't really delivered enough to really continue that. Good game, Dylan. The Arsenal press is a killer, but I think it deserved a draw in terms of FPL. I will take 63 without Haaland, save the free. Yeah, I completely agree. I think a draw was fair. 1-1 or 2-2. I think ultimately the scoreline was quite, it reflected the game quite well. I think Arsenal were the better team in the first half, and then Liverpool were more dangerous in the second and were the better team there, especially from the 50th minute. So yeah, I have to say a draw was fair. Robinson or 8-Nuri? 8-Nuri for me. Now, Wolves need to start keeping some clean sheets, and they're in big trouble, but attacking-wise, I really like 8-Nuri. Saliba for Gavardio for the next 2 game weeks? Not really sure about that, to be honest, mate. I think Arsenal have better fixtures long-term than Man City, and I don't really back a City clean sheet against Brighton and Bournemouth. They might keep one, but I'd be surprised if they do in both matches. Tafer says, big up Dylan, I got really unlucky again as I decided to replace Saka and Diaz, keeping DCL when I was contemplating Wissa Cunha. Yeah, FPL can be like that sometimes. It leaves you kind of ruining missed opportunities or 50-50 calls, but there's not really much you can do. Nice stuff, good score and rank as well for this stage of the season. I'm rolling the transfer. Yeah, well, only one, that makes sense. I am looking at probably using transfers again, but I'll talk more about that in the team selection myself. Yeah, I think Son should definitely be back for Ipswich. Ange Postecoglou said that it's not a serious injury on Friday, but he's very unlikely going to play, and of course he missed out in that 1-0 defeat. I think he'll be back for Villa, let alone for Ipswich Town, so I think Son is a hold. I'll talk about this in the Transcripts podcast probably tomorrow or Tuesday. So yeah, that answers Arendam's question as well. Easy99 says, I will not sell Haaland and Palmer. Both are my main guys in my team. I buy Salah this week to get more points forwards and future captain and cover Haaland in difficult fixtures. Yeah, I think Palmer is definitely a hold, but I think with Haaland, you could make a debate for selling him. He's far too expensive for the recent offerings. I know he'll improve, and even in this period where people sell him, he might go ballistic. That's the kind of player he is. Fixture proof is putting it lightly, but I'd rather have Salah at this point. Thing is, it's not that Haaland is bad. He's good. 11 goals this season, but he's 50 million. If he was like 7-9 million, no one would sell. Even if he was 12 million, I don't think people would sell him. But the fact he's 15.4, as you say, and look, 11 goals is really strong, by the way, but most of them came in the first 5 game weeks of the campaign. Ever since that, it's 1 goal in 4 game weeks against very, very promising opposition like Southampton at home, Wolves away, so he has been very poor. Gavardio plus Maddison plus Foden to James, Palmer, Bowen, thoughts? Yeah, I like that, to be honest. The only one I don't is Reece James. I wouldn't make that move. I think he's just far too injury prone for me to invest. Chelsea have great fixtures from game week 12 onwards, but even with the minutes, I'd always be concerned about that. So Palmer and Bowen look amazing. I would consider a different defender, though, personally. But I know you're a Chelsea fan. You might just want to go for Reece James, and he's got that attacking potential in abundance. Chris Wood is fine. He gave a interview straight after the game and said it's nothing serious and he should be fine for the next match. Of course, players tend to say that anyway, but I wouldn't really think too much of it. The same goes for McNeil, who is currently flagged due to a knock. Yeah, I think Solanke is a sell, but there is a case to be made to keep him for the next 2 game weeks, especially for game week 11 against Ipswich Town, then sell him. Haaland to Raul and Smith Rowe to Palmer for 2 free transfers, says Sahil. Yeah, that looks fairly good to me. I like Smith Rowe, and of course Haaland is still a great option, but I think Jimenez and Palmer is a better duo right now. I wouldn't do it just yet, by the way, Sahil. I'd probably wait until the deadline and then kind of finalize closer to that. But as things stand, I would do it. Solanke was a mistake. Muniz, deja vu. Well, when I bought him in, he scored against United, but I benched him. Then he got an assist against Brighton, so it was a decent start. But ever since, he's been very poor and not involved in the game at all. Even against Brighton, no shots. Against Palace, looked toothless. But Spurs in general, I think, depend a lot on Heung-min Son, and they're much stronger in home matches where, you know, apart from Arsenal, they've scored 3 or 4 goals in virtually every home game. Best Haaland replacements, I don't mind selling because it would allow me to get Palmer in. Well, I think Watkins is a great shout. You know, he's at a good price point. It's quite flexible. The fixtures are quite tough over the next 2, but I could see him scoring against Tottenham. Probably blanking against Liverpool, in my opinion. The other options I like would include Cunha, of course, Wissa, who I've discussed a lot recently, and Jackson. I think Jackson's a great shout, but I'd rather buy him in Game Week 12. Sydney says Gabriel, Foden, Solanke to Aït-Nouri, Salah 5.9 million forward for a -4, or Semenyo, Haaland to Salah, Cunha for free. Great. I'm just trying to make sure I haven't drank an insect. Apologies. Yeah, great transfers, you know, for both of them. So it's quite difficult to judge that. My gut feeling would be, I think it would be Gabriel, Foden, Solanke to Aït-Nouri, Salah, and Wissa, for example, Jimenez for a -4. But that's how things are at the moment. Yeah, I think that'd be my gut feeling right now. DCL to Cunha for a -4. Probably not. I think Wolves Palace could be low scoring, but ultimately you buy Cunha for the long term, right? Especially Game Week 11 against Southampton at home. I wouldn't do it for a hit. And I think Calvert-Lewin will do something against Southampton. Although I thought he'd do something against Ipswich, or at least in the recent games, and he hasn't. So, Kivior Costas again. I mean, look, it's a bit harsh though, mate, because it's a back four of Skelly, Kivior, White, and Partey. I mean, we're talking about third choice Arsenal backline, not even second choice. I know Zinchenko could have been brought on, of course, but Tomiyasu, obviously Saliba's suspended, but you've got Tomiyasu and Gabriel injured. Timber had to go off as well. So there's not really much you can do. I think Kivior did okay, but on the ball, he's terrible. We know that. He tends to boot the ball away, and, you know, that's something I don't like about him. But I don't think, I think it's a bit harsh to say he cost us. I think ultimately Arsenal attacked, you know, very intensely in that moment, and they were caught out. Liverpool punished them with a very well-worked goal, and there's not much they could do there. I only had 46 this game week. Solanke, Rodgers, and Johnson sold, and Trent. Yeah, bad score, but you've got some good players. I think Solanke's a bit concerning because of the lack of bonus points, and also, I just think apart from Ipswich Town, do you really see Solanke hauling in any game? And I don't really think so. Even Ipswich Town isn't a guarantee for him, based on recent form. AK94 says Gabriel, Havertz, and Bowen for Konate, Wissa, and Palmer for a -4. Yeah, simply put, I'd do it. Palmer alone justifies the hit. Wissa and Konate are also good transfers. Now, Fulham away isn't the best time or best fixture necessarily to get Wissa or Mbumo, but I think they're good purchases regardless. I'd do it. A mixed feeling this game week to have Salah, Son, and Haaland triple captain ended up with 77 points. Still against Palmer until Game Week 12 wildcard. Hope he doesn't punish me too much next week. Yeah, that's the concern, right? Against Man United, his boyhood club. Palmer could get something there for sure, but I don't see a hat-trick or something like that, which he did against them in Stamford Bridge back in April, I think it was. I don't see something like that happening, but 1 or 2 goal involvement, should I say, is definitely on the cards. The draw between Liverpool and Arsenal got me $120. What a game. I was on edge whole 90 minutes. Yeah, I predicted 1-1. I just thought that with the injuries Arsenal had, I think it would catch up to them. And with Gabriel and Timber coming off, I just knew Liverpool would score the equaliser. And I'm just thankful they didn't score the winner. Chris Wood is fine, as discussed earlier. Basically, he said himself in a post-match interview that he should be good. Yes, on paper, Sahil, it looks amazing. But a lot of times people ask me questions about, you know, the best captaincy option. And I say, based on a combination of fixture and form, you know, for example, Haaland for me was the best in Game Week 9, but sometimes it's not like that. And it would not surprise me if now Haaland does really well against Bournemouth when people go against him and go for Palmer or Salah. That's the way FPL can work. But on paper, I think it is the best one. Any news on Mazraoui? I have Collins thinking of selling one. Got 0.5 in the bank. Who to get in? I have Saliba and Gvardiol. Not too sure about that, mate. With Mazraoui, I saw the game towards the end. He had to come off, and he is a fairly injury-prone player, but I don't know exactly what the injury was. He might be fine for the next match, but yeah, it was quite late, the substitution. I think he could still be available for the next game. Brentford are terrible defensively, and that's why I'm quite happy I didn't go for Flecken in goal, or let's say Collins. I've just got Van den Berg as a 4 million defender, which was used to fund Palmer, but yeah, even with that, I'd probably regret that as well, to be honest. So I'd keep what you have for now. Wait for the injury updates. Of course, if Gabriel is out, and the same goes for Timber, I wouldn't be too keen on the Arsenal defence against Newcastle or Chelsea, but if one of those players are back, or even both of them, of course, I think Arsenal can keep a clean sheet, even in those tough games. When will Mbeumo be a sell? If I'm not mistaken, around game week 16 possibly, but even then, you could definitely keep him throughout the tougher games as well. So Brentford's fixtures turn for the worse in game week 14 technically, against Aston Villa and Newcastle, but I could see Mbeumo getting a goal in one of those games. I wouldn't sell him necessarily. I wanted Arsenal to win, but that Salah goal saved my game week. Yeah, that was a double whammy for me, of course. You know, my team obviously conceding, and then, of course, the FPL repercussions from that. I dropped 200, 300,000 places from that Salah goal. Next best captain. I know it sounds a bit woke, but I think Foden against Bournemouth. I don't know why. He's got a good record against them, and Brighton, of course, is next to opponents. But I think if he gets good minutes, I'd back Foden to outscore Haaland, for example. But that's my current thinking. I might feel differently in a couple of days' time. But then, of course, you've got Palmer, who would be right up there. Yeah, it's between Palmer and Foden for me. Jazza says, hey, Dylan, think I'm going to give up on DCL. Don't really blame me there. What are your thoughts on him and possible replacements? Good underlying stats, especially in recent games, but poor finisher. You can't rely on him, simply put. Great fixtures, but it's not enough to justify keeping him. Got Haaland and Cunha, also transferred in Son, so that's another issue. Son should be available for Game Week 10, as discussed earlier, so I'd keep him until Game Week 12. Maybe you want to keep him against City, that's fine. Since you've got Cunha and Haaland, I'd keep DCL for one more week, I promise. Just one more week of pain. Then you can go to Wissa, Chris Wood, Raul Jimenez. One of those forwards is more than enough. And if you've got the funds, I wouldn't even mind going for Jackson or Ollie Watkins, of course, once his fixtures turn for the better. 64 points, 3 red arrows in a row now. Look, it's not a bad score. It's obviously enough to get a red arrow, but I'm guessing your rank is fairly decent because, you know, I got a minimal green arrow at my rank, so I'm assuming you're in a strong position. DCL to Cunha for a -4. Yeah, once again, I covered this question. I wouldn't do it for a -4 this week, but I would do it for free in Game Week 11. I have 2 free transfers. Should I replace both DCL and Solanke? Tough one. Jesus Christ. I'm getting distracted. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think both of them are sellable in the next few weeks. I'd keep DCL for Southampton away. And of course, with Solanke, you can make a similar argument for keeping him until Game Week 12. But I think I'd pull the trigger now. I'd replace at least one of them. And because of the fixture, I'd replace Solanke. He's also more expensive. I know that might go against you. I wouldn't surprise me if that sort of decision backfired. But that would be my initial take, to sell Solanke. But then sell DCL in Game Week 11 as well. Which 3 forwards from Game Week 12 onwards? From Game Week 12 onwards, Watkins, Cunha, and Wissa. But I think Wissa's fairly short-term from that point onwards anyway. Do you know what is the exact time FPL price changes? Well, the clocks just went back in the UK. So now it would be 1:30 AM UK time, roughly. Not sure what it would be in your time zone. Yeah, I watched El Clasico yesterday. I went out to watch that, and it was a thrilling game. I did not expect that scoreline. I actually said 2-1 Madrid. Keep Maddison for the next 2 or sell? I'd sell. Start Wood or McNeil? I mean, you start Chris Wood all day long based on his current form, but McNeil against Southampton away, you'd want to start him as well, if possible, but Chris Wood. Solanke in for Cunha and Van den Berg to Aït-Nouri, so that I only have 2 Brentford assets, and then if I ever want to switch to Salah, could just go Haaland to Wissa, and maybe Rogers McNeil to Salah. Looks really good to me, mate. I think you've thought it out pretty well. Yeah, I think Solanke to Cunha is a good move. I'm looking at it myself. Don't captain Haaland, but don't sell. His 70% ownership will hurt. Well, his ownership could go down very soon. Maybe not this week necessarily, but I think if he blanks against Bournemouth, I could see a lot of people selling him against Brighton or against Tottenham. So I think, oddly enough, the Tottenham game is where Haaland will probably give his best performance. I think against Bournemouth and Brighton, he'll score 1 goal. And look, I'm probably got that wrong, but that's my initial feeling. And against Spurs, I think he could get 2. Sydney says Gabriel, Foden and Solanke to 8 Neri, Salah 5.9. I covered this, mate. I'd go for the -4 option as things stand. I don't think, well, it's tough to say because, you know, we have no information about it, but I think the injury is probably enough to see him miss Newcastle and Chelsea, but I couldn't tell you for sure, mate. So it all depends. Gabriel is nearly always available. If he recovers well and he's in good condition, he will definitely play, of course, but there's no guarantee. 70 points for triple captain Haaland. It's underwhelming, but 70 points is still a decent score. Take it and run. It's probably a green arrow for most people. But yeah, Haaland was very disappointing. I'm surprised by it. He had the XG and the chances, but he didn't quite convert. Gabriel, Powell to 8 Nuri, or Havertz to Cunha for -4. Son keep. Yeah, I'd keep Son for the next 2. Then I'd look to sell to Palmer and Saka. As for the other transfer, I'd wait first for more information. If Gabriel's fit, I'd definitely sell Pau Torres instead. But of course, if Gabriel's missing the next 2-3 weeks, he's more expensive as well. You could definitely make a case for selling him instead because of it. I predicted 2-1 Barcelona, did not expect 4-0. Yeah, very, very surprising. But there are the odd occasions where Barcelona just batter Madrid, even at the home stadium. But I think Madrid will still turn things around. But as I mentioned a few weeks ago, I'm backing Barcelona to win La Liga. Football 1, when Barca humiliated Madrid with La Masia, graduates, 7 of them. Yeah, look, and Barcelona have a lot of injuries themselves, so to go to their bitter rivals away from home and play that way is very impressive. Who's getting the bonus points today? Unfortunately, Salah. Unfortunately. I can just show you on screen as well, by the way, and then I'm going to go to some different screens. So for Chelsea, Newcastle, Jackson and Palmer right in amongst the bonus points. So Palmer with 3, Jackson 2, and Pedro Neto 1. For Palace, Spurs, Mateta 3, Chalobah 2, and Dean Henderson 1. Quite surprised to see Eze not there. Normally when he gets, well, normally it's with a goal, to be fair, he gets 2 free bonus points, but still a very good return from him to finally repay the faith that some owners have shown him. For West Ham, Man United, Casemiro with 3 bonus points, Somerville with 2, and then Danny Ings with 1. Jared Bowen narrowly missing out. I like Bowen, by the way, but not too great for bonus points if we really think about it. As for Arsenal, Liverpool, Salah with 3, Saka 2, and then Mikel Merino with 1. I think that's fairly accurate based on the best performance. I think Rice was really, really impressive today as well. He probably deserved as well, but because Merino scored, you can understand the bonus points in that 2-2 draw between Arsenal and Liverpool. So those are the bonus points. Let's now go to the FDR over the next 6 game weeks, and Ipswich Town are top. Man United, Wolves, Leicester and Everton complete the top 5, with Spurs just outside that bracket. Brighton, Chelsea, Newcastle, Forest and Man City are in the bottom 5. Arsenal also quite low down. You see some good teams like Liverpool and Villa in mid-table. With predicted points, Salah is top with that fixture against Brighton at home in game week 10. 7.9 predicted points. Haaland is just behind with 7.8. Then we've got Palmer, Jimenez, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Foden, Solanke, Cunha, Watkins and Isak. I have to say though, not really feeling Trent against Brighton, but if they keep a clean sheet and he gets something, then of course we could be looking at a 12-pointer. We'll see how that pans out. But yeah, some good suggestions here. Let's now look at possible price changes. Gvardiol and Salah could go up in price tonight, whilst Timber and Duran could be facing a price drop, and we could see more transfer activity in the next couple of days. As for Drafthound and their predicted points, Salah has shot up to 2nd, so Haaland is still 1st, but that could change very soon. Palmer, Mbeumo and Saka complete the top 5 with Gvardiol, Diaz, Watkins, Garnacho and Trent. The current recommendations for my team by Drafthound. Let's see what they're saying. It might not be updated though. They're saying Solanke to Raul Jimenez, not too shabby. Rodgers to Jones, I think that's probably will be changed very soon. Gabriel to Gvardiol is a nice shout too. And then Semenyo to McNeil is something I've considered. But with my other injury problems and issues, I think I might be looking at something different. So let's now go to the stats section to check the most captain players in the top 10k Haaland with 75.84 effective ownership in that bracket. If we then change this to the top 100k, it will still be quite high. Yeah, almost 75%. So the triple captaincy didn't really pay off this week, but a return is better than nothing. I triple captain Mane in a double game week a few years ago. He got injured within 40 minutes against Wolves, so it can go even worse than what Haaland just did. But with the chances he had, he really should have buried more of them. Let's now go to a sneak preview of my possible transfers and team selection for Game Week 10, which could include Cunha in for Solanke, and then I could still have 2 free transfers in Game Week 11. So, of course, with Gabriel injured, I might need to go early with certain transfers, and that could include, for example, Greaves to Aït-Nouri, so going a bit heavy on Wolves, which does seem a bit weird, but I think Aït-Nouri and Cunha are very good FPL options. So yeah, if Gabriel misses out, I'd then do something like this. The expected points is very low, by the way, but football is not played on paper, and I think that's quite clear from this season. So yeah, if Gabriel's out, I'll do something like that. I might even sell him instead, of course, but Greaves is out for the next month. He's another sell for me regardless. And then with 1.7 million in the bank, I could buy Saka back in Game Week 12. I'd still have a chance to get Salah in Game Week 10, by the way, but it might require a -4 hit, or even to sell Erling Haaland. So it all depends on that, and maybe keep Solanke for the Ipswich Town fixture, then sell him. But I've been very disappointed in Solanke. I just don't really see him as, being worth the price and a spot in my team for the foreseeable future. So if we do sell Erling Haaland instead, I could go to Watkins or Jackson, to be fair, but I think I just still go for Cunha. And then with that much money in the bank, I could then upgrade Semenyo all the way to Salah very easily. And if Gabriel's available, I can just do something like that and prevent the -4 hit. So there's a lot of transfer plans and scenarios for me, and I'll decide this over the next week. Check out my team selection in a couple of days' time. The same goes for my best wildcard squad, and of course the transfer tips. All of that is headed your way. The transfer tips will likely be tomorrow, then the wildcard, and the team selection later in the week. If you want to see a predicted lineups podcast, let me know as well in the live chat. A lot of people have been showing love to those videos, but it does take a lot of work to make those predicted lineups and get all the research and information. And of course, football throws you so many curveballs in the press conferences, and of course in training sessions and in between matches. So many injuries are happening. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new, by the way. I appreciate those that are tuning in. We've got over 300 people watching, which is more than usual on the Sunday, so I do appreciate it. And for UCL Fantasy, if you think this is a lot, the attention, or should we say the demand for UCL Fantasy content is insane. And on Tuesday, for the Matchday free deadline stream, we hit 29,000 subscribers. Thank you very much for your support. We're going to try to get to 30k by the end of the year. And in the last deadline stream for FPL on Friday, I gifted 10 memberships. So always keep your eyes peeled for those memberships every single month. So yeah, I do appreciate those that have been showing the love. I kept Saka due to advice. Thanks again. No worries, mate. In certain scenarios, I did recommend selling Saka to Foden, Palmer, and Salah. But apart from those players, I didn't really see anybody else. Of course, if someone was fit, he would have been another one. But I didn't see many who were really worth it. Haaland had 1.7 XG when he scored back-to-back hat-tricks. Yeah, that's why I think there's a lot of luck involved in FPL. I had it with a triple captaincy back in Game Week 2, but the reason why I was so early with the chip is because Haaland had a great pre-season. He scored against Chelsea, looked really sharp, and facing Ipswich Town at home, I thought C would win comfortably and score a lot of goals, and I thought Haaland would get 2 or 3 goals. But I also thought that against Southampton, and guess what? He just didn't do it. But form is so important sometimes, and you need that luck to get the points, really, whether it's on a triple captaincy chip, the bench boost, free hit, wildcard, or normal transfers. Which teams would you target on a Game Week 12 wildcard? I think Chelsea immediately spring to mind. And also, I'm going to have a look here at the FDR from Game Week 12 onwards specifically to give you a better answer. Now, the wildcard is a long-term tour. I played in Game Week 6 and actually lost out on points that particular week. And of course, once again, I go back to it. Timing is of the essence. Bournemouth actually have a very solid run from Game Week 12 to 20, but I'd be looking at Chelsea, Aston Villa. I'd also look at Arsenal and City. I think those are the favourite teams to kind of pile up on with 2 or 3. You don't necessarily need to triple up on all of them, even Chelsea, but I think that looks fairly solid. In Boomer, captain paid off. Really good stuff. Well played. I was really adamant about Haaland this week, so yeah, probably goes to show maybe one of my weaknesses this season, or at least in recent weeks, in terms of the captaincy. I've essentially captained Haaland in every single week bar one. And in that week, I captained Salah. He blanked against Forest, whilst Haaland got 9 points against Brentford. So, yeah, basically since Game Week 5, possibly even Game Week 4, the captaincy has been quite meh for me. Haaland had the record 2.33 XG against Southampton, but he scored 1 goal, underperforming his XG. Yeah, even Haaland, you know, we call him a robot because of his goal-scoring record, but he is human. He does miss some big chances sometimes. I mean, look at last season. But yeah, Southampton, I'm quite surprised. They only lost 1-0, but on the face of it, it should have been a more comfortable win for Man City. Easy99 says, Barcelona with Hansi Flick is a different animal this season. Could they win Champions League this season? Yeah, they could, but I personally think they won't. I think they'll win La Liga, maybe Copa del Rey as well. And I think they'll go far in the Champions League, but I don't think they'll win it. Well done for captaining Mbumo. I went Palmer, still pretty happy. Well, it's 9 points. That's a very good score. Green Arrow and rank 745. Wow. Fair play, mate. Good luck, Vladimir. And hopefully you can stay there and possibly go beyond that. Who should I sell Trent for? I already have Lewis. Is it risky to bring Gavardio in? I know Kelleher is in place of Alisson. Liverpool look a bit shaky defensively too, but I wouldn't be looking to sell Trent right now. I honestly wouldn't. The only reason I do that is to fund a move like Palmer or Salah in the midfield, which would be worth it. And that's the only reason why I saw Trent back in Game Week 7. Yeah, I think I will, Beardy, but not necessarily in Game Week 10, probably in Game Week 12. I don't think Arsenal score many goals against Chelsea and Newcastle. In fact, I think they score 1 or 2 goals max. I'm predicting a Haaland hold in your transfers video tomorrow. Well, I did make a list already of like the players in each category, and I didn't have Haaland at all, but I think he will be a big discussion point. It might be worth including him in such a conversation and video. So, yeah, look, on paper, of course, Haaland is a hold, but the question would also be, what do you do with that money? And if it means buying Salah and Watkins long-term, I think that is the best move. Thank you very much, Ricardo, for the kind words, and hopefully you're doing better in FPL than I am right now. But of course, it is early on in the season. How did Haaland get 0 bonus points? Well, Gavardio and Mateus, I don't think Mateus Nunes, Savio got 3 bonus points. I'm not exactly sure why he didn't get any bonus. I thought he did. I think for most of the game he was on course for 2, but in the end it wasn't meant to be. The reason why I sold Solanke is because he looks so much like Harry Kane. That sounds weird, but operating in midfield, being creative, not a fan. Well, yeah, but Harry Kane got a lot of goals. Solanke isn't really doing that. He's scoring once every 3-4 matches, which it's not bad, but it's not good enough to justify a place in your FPL team. Thank you, Steve. Bless up to you as well. Barry says, Haaland and Mavididi out for Salah Cunha. Yes, honestly, I'd do it. Now, close to the deadline, I might have a different take or maybe feel less strongly about it, but I think that looks really strong. I think that's good. Good shout on Mbumo. Yeah, those that captain him, fair play. Hi, it's me, 939 says, should I roll the transfer? Have Sanchez, Virginia, Kanate, Trent, Aina, Borro, Harwood, Bellis, Johnson, Palmer, Rogers, Mbumo, McNeil, Raul, Solanke, and Haaland. I think you could roll this week. So this, in Game Week 10, you go for Sanchez, Trent. Yeah, I think with your defensive line, they're good options, but the fixtures are a bit meh. Yeah, I think you go for Aina and then one of Kanate or Borro. You start all the midfielders, essentially. Yeah, I think ultimately you'd have a bit of a benching headache. Maybe you bench Rogers based on the fixture. Or Solanke, to be fair. I think you'd probably roll for now. I'm not sure how many free transfers you have, though, and what funds are you working with, because that could also play a big part. If you've got 4 free transfers, for example, I'd be tempted to use some of them. That could be Aït-Nouri in the defence. You could also buy, let's say, Salah in the midfield. But if you only got 1 or 2 free transfers, I think I'd probably roll. Is Dunk, who is injured, to Aït-Nouri and DCL to Wissa worth a -4? I have 0 in the bank, so I might get priced out of Wissa. Yes, it is worth it. So just to be clear, I think this week Calvert-Lewin has a much better fixture than Wissa, and it wouldn't surprise me if Calvert-Lewin outscored him, but long-term that hit will pay off. Wissa is the better choice, and that's why I would go ahead with those moves. Lyle, or Lyl, says Foden and Antonio, or Wood and Bowen. Good question. I'd go for Wood and Bowen. I think as a duo that's more consistent. Mikel Antonio probably drops out of the side once Fulkrug is back, and I just don't trust Antonio. There'll be the odd game where he does really well, but yeah, I think there are better options elsewhere. Thoughts on Foden? Well, I just brought him in, right? I thought he'd do something against Southampton. I was wrong. But he's got a good record against Bournemouth and Brighton, so I'm backing him to score a goal at least in the next 2 game weeks. My current thinking is to hold until game week 12. I can then go back to Saka. Of course, if I keep Haaland and go for kind of different transfers, then maybe I'll find myself selling Foden to Salah very soon as well. But I have to say, there's a lot to think about and a lot of different avenues for my transfers, and that's why I'll give it more time and thought. And then for the team selection podcast around Wednesday or Thursday, I will have a much clearer idea of what I want to do. But Foden, I think, is a hold in the short term. Let's go back to my FPL team. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Let's get this stream to over 200 likes. Thank you to those that have done so already. So he'll say, should I do Haaland and Smith Rowe to Palmer and Raul, or wait 2 weeks later when the likes of Watkins and Jackson have better fixtures? The thing is, though, would buying Watkins or Jackson price you out of Palmer? That'd be my question. Because ultimately, I think Palmer is definitely worth it. I'm guessing by that stage you'd be able to get Palmer. And I do like Watkins and Jackson a lot. On the face of it, I'd probably wait 2 weeks. I think Jackson and Watkins will outperform Raul Jimenez long term. But of course, there's a big difference in price. The best budget forwards to buy right now for me are Cunha and Wissa. I think Jimenez would be 3rd or 4th in that list. Should I do Greaves to Nuri or DCL out to Raul, Welbeck, Cunha? Good question. I think this week you do Greaves to Nuri and then sell DCL to Cunha in Game Week 11. I like Welbeck a lot, by the way. That's another great shout. Haaland got humbled by Arsenal since that game. He has not scored, or either only scored 1 goal. Well, technically he did score a brace in the Champions League, to be fair, but yeah, in the Premier League, 1 goal from 4 with those fixtures is surprising. He will score a lot of goals, and I still think he'll get 35 plus. That's my prediction, but it's funny, you know, even that wouldn't be enough in most cases, I think, to justify that 15.4 million price tag when you've got Palmer at around 10.8. You've got Salah, who's been so consistent. So there's so many options this season, which is good to see. And I think timing is just so important. Current rank 1.2 million. My goal is to finish top 100k. Yeah, still definitely attainable. I think I was at a worse rank this time last year, and I didn't have a great finish. It was my worst ever rank, but you know, just outside the top 100k for the first time that I've ever done that. I think I can outperform what I did last year. Foden and Gabriel to Son and Nuri overall. I wouldn't sell Foden to Son. No, I'd keep Foden for now and then sell him to Saka in Game Week 12 or Palmer, for example, and even Salah this week, but I wouldn't do Foden to Son now. Gabriel to Nuri, if Gabriel's out, looks pretty good. Remember start of the season, 2021-22, Antonio Benrahma? I do. I was making videos and live streams back then. I think it was my 2nd full season doing content. I think I started the campaign with Antonio, and then I bought Benrahma in Game Week 2. He got me 1 return against United with a deflected goal, and then he was terrible. But for 3 game weeks, it looked amazing. I already have Haaland and Salah too, by the way, so should I get in Konate, Nuri, Cunha, and Saka for Havertz, Rodgers, Trent, and Gabriel? Yes, I probably would. Now, you are selling some good FPL assets. I think all of them are really good. And just be a bit careful with Gabriel, because if he is available, I think it's a long-term hold. No worries, Ilko. I'm glad that you found some value. Yeah, Son will definitely be available for Villa for me. Certainly for Ipswich Town in Game Week 11. But let's say, for example, he were to miss out against Villa. Because of his price tag and the alternatives, I think people would still sell him. So I know why you're asking that. But the injury wasn't serious. He could have played against Palace, according to reports, but they didn't want to risk him. I think he'll play against Villa. It's a very big game for the top 4 aspirations for both clubs. Recommend cheap defensive line, please. Okay, so just to be clear, I'll recommend it, of course, but don't completely abandon the premium defenders. They still have a lot to offer. Gabriel when he's fit, even Saliba and these Arsenal defenders, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think having one of them is still viable in your setup, but I think Kate Nuri would definitely be on the radar. I'd also look at Rico Lewis. Then it gets a bit tricky. Mazraoui, if fit, would still be in my thinking as a kind of 4th defender option to rotate with your other choices. I'd go for one of Aina or Milenkovic, so that's 4. If I had to pick one more cheap defender, I can't bring myself to recommend Brentford, to be fair, so not going to go there. The other team or play I'd go for would possibly be... I think Mikalenko, yeah. That'd be my kind of cheap defensive line, but you don't need to go that cheap. You can still go for at least a 5 million plus defender like Pedro Porro, who, to be honest, might be worth selling for a lot of people. Best 5.9 million forward, Wissa. So the way I rank budget forwards in general would probably be Chris Wood first in terms of overall, although his fixtures are pretty poor coming up. I'd go for Cunha second, Wissa third. And then Jimenez would be fourth. Of course, at 5.9 million and below, I think Wissa and Jimenez would be the two standouts. What do you think about Salah, Mbeumo, Palmer and Saka in the mid? Forwards, Jackson, Havertz and Wissa. I'm on board. I love it. I would consider one of Watkins or Cunha instead of Havertz though. But yeah, overall looks really strong. That's the only possible change I'd make. I think the midfield is very, very good. What do you plan on doing with Gabriel? Yeah, true, but I think there could be reports from reliable sources about Gabriel's injuries, so it's always worth waiting instead of making an early transfer in the dark, because if you sell him early, you might, end up regretting it if he plays against Newcastle and Chelsea. I personally think he will miss out Game Week 10, but it's just a gut feeling, and I don't know anything about the injury, really. Yeah, Wissa better than Raul, but for week, I'm feeling he'll do better. Yeah, I think Jimenez will outscore Wissa, or he's more likely to score anyway. I think that's a very close game between the two. But if I'm buying one now, it would be Wissa because of the next 4 or 5 fixtures and Brentford's form. I also just like Wissa. He's a bonus points machine and links up very well with Mbeumo. Should I do Trent and Johnson to Konate and Salah? Yeah, I probably would. The only downside is selling Trent, but you're buying Salah, so that makes up for it. Dylan, is Wood that good, or is it the fixtures and form? I mean, Chris Wood is a decent Premier League striker. I think it's a combination of both, but it's not just this season, by the way. Ever since Nuno Espirito Santo was appointed in December, only Palmer and Haaland have scored more goals than Chris Wood. So it's a long-term thing now. We're talking about 10 months of football, 9 goals in his last 10 Premier League games. So yeah, he's a decent Premier League striker. He's getting good service, as he said in his press conference or post-match interview. 8 goals in 9 games. It's not sustainable, is it? Well, he's not going to continue this run, I think, but over the next 5, I think he can still score 2 or 3. And for that price, it's still very good. But against Arsenal and Man City away, I wouldn't really be against benching him in such fixtures. Best captain for Game Week 10, Salah, on paper, but as I mentioned earlier, football can be a funny game. It could now be Haaland doing what he should have done last week and scoring a brace or hat-trick. But on paper, I think Salah is the best. Should I sell Gabriel Arnold? Based on what we know right now, which is very little, I'd sell Gabriel. Do you regret selling Saka to Foden now? I'd only regret it if, for example, Foden is benched in, the next 2 matches and doesn't return anything. But I always looked at this 3 game week period of Foden having Bournemouth, Brighton and Southampton and thinking he can score 2 or 3 goals here. So I think it's too early to say, do I regret it? Is Saka the better FPL option? Of course he is, and I thought he'd start against Liverpool, but I wanted to take a punt and go aggressive. I thought City would win big yesterday. They didn't. Foden was disappointing, but I think it's far too early. Haaland and Foden will do good against Bournemouth. Yeah, but maybe Bournemouth will adopt their approach, right? I think it could be a low-scoring game. Some people are even saying they think Bournemouth can get something here. I personally don't. But yeah, hopefully, if City do go on to win, I hope Foden can do something. Quite good, actually. 58 points. My only blank was Jordan Pickford. Let's go to it right now. For those that play FPL Challenge, I got 59, actually. So Pickford with 2 points, Gavardio 15, Palmer 11, Mbeumo 19, Erling Haaland with a 12-pointer. Not too great, but still a pretty good score in FPL Challenge. Even better, relatively speaking, than my FPL squad. So Arteta on Gabriel, I don't know what the injury is, but he can't run. I don't know if it was his knee or his ankle. He is being assessed right now. I don't know if it was his knee or his ankle. Arteta's next level with the press. Yeah, I mean, even beyond injury updates and stuff, Arteta managed the press really well. So you just can't beat him there. Yeah, I think so as well. On the face of it, I think Gabriel is probably a sell. But like I said, I'd rather wait for more information because maybe in a few days' time he feels better. But it doesn't look good. It really doesn't, unfortunately, for the Arsenal fans. So let's see. I think I'm done with premium defense. A lot of people are saying that, mate, but I think Trent and Gabriel, once he's fit, I think they're still really good. I think it ebbs and flows, right? Early in the season, it looked like premium defenders were amazing. It will change pretty much. Solanke is no longer seen in the box as often as he was while at Bournemouth. Yeah, in recent games, you're definitely right, and I want to sell him. I will talk about this in the Transfers podcast tomorrow in more detail, but I think he'll do well against Ipswich Town, but is it enough to justify keeping him? Perhaps not, and I think Cunha, Wissa, Jimenez, even Delap, Strand Larsen are probably better choices right now, not to mention Jackson and Watkins. He has been really good in the last 2 games, but I wouldn't buy Matheus Nunes right now. I think at a similar price, McNeil and Garnacho would be my favourites. Early news I've heard on Gabriel injuries possibly till after the international break. Yeah, but I don't think much is known. I mean, Arteta said it himself. I think he's genuinely, being serious there and not misleading people. They might have a feeling it's going to be bad, but they don't know for sure. I personally don't think he'll play against Newcastle. Are McNeil and Wood safe to play in Game Week 10? Yes, that's been covered earlier. Nothing serious. 64 points thanks to Palmer and Salah. Yeah, good score. And having 2 premiums of that ability and consistency is very important. So just going back to my team, that's how I did in Game Week 9. Full out, no bonus points are going to be added for me, of course. The Salah goal did drop me down a few 100,000 places. David Rao of 0 after being booked and conceding twice. Vandenberg with a 1-pointer, conceding 3 goals in that thriller. Rico Lewis kept a clean sheet, but Mikolenko, of course, doing nothing in that 1-1 draw with Fulham. Mbeumo, of course, the standout in the midfield with 15 points. Palmer's going to get 9. So, yeah, I will get 2 more points on screen. Wait, 2? I think he's got 3 bonus points. So, yeah, it's looking like a 10-pointer for Cole Palmer. Foden, of course, blanking, very disappointing, especially since I sold Saka for him. Otherwise, it would have been a nice green arrow for me and potentially in the top 1 million. Morgan Rogers blanked with a 1-pointer being booked. That's another one. Solanke with a very disappointing performance against Palace. Chris Wood was the star for me. Without him, I'd be on a red arrow, so I am very thankful. Erling Haaland with just the 1 goal against the worst team in the league, arguably. And those that triple captain him will be very underwhelmed and disappointed, but your season is certainly not over. As for my bench, Semenyo got booked, another one. Gabriel got injured. It's not looking too good right now. We'll see what the latest updates are. And Jacob Greaves is probably missing the next couple of games anyway, until the next international break, should I say. So it's not looking too good for my squad. Of course, 2 potential injuries. I think Chris Wood is fine, as discussed earlier. I've got 2 free transfers, luckily. And I think the likes of Salah, Saka, of course, who I just sold, Cunha, 8 Nuri are all on radar for me. Even Wissa, but because I've got 3 Brentford players already, and that was a mistake from me on the wild card, it would require selling Valdimarsson or Vandenberg when I've got other issues really to improve and rectify. All right, so let's see what else we're getting here. Thank you, Sydney, one of my favorite FPL content creators. Pray you make it to 100k subs sooner rather than later. Thank you very much for the kind words and good luck in Game Week 10. Of course, we've got a little bit of a break now for the next couple of days, but yeah, it's going to go very quickly, thick and fast. These turnarounds are. More likes people, it'll bring you FPL good luck. Well, I hope so. But I do appreciate everyone who has done so already. It costs nothing and it supports the channel very much, more than you believe, as a certain Pep Guardiola says. But thank you very much to everyone who's been subscribing. McNeil picked up a knock. I don't know the exact extent of the injury, but it doesn't seem serious. Do I even have a quote on it? No, I don't think anything's been said. Of course, there is one site, Premier Injuries, that do have McNeil flagged at 25% chance of playing due to a knee injury. I'm not sure it's that serious, but it's something to definitely monitor, and it could be concerning. But I think for now, I wouldn't look too much into it, and all you can really do is wait until the press conferences or just later in the week. Yeah, Palmer's on 10 points, yeah. Those that have both will be flying. 76 points all out, still my triple captain, Wood and Wissa coming in clutch. Yeah, very good forwards to have. There are so many forwards to choose from. I've mentioned them to death in this stream and in previous ones. So, yeah, there's a lot really to... You can't go wrong with your forwards unless you go for Calvert-Lewin. Chris Wood is a legend because he used to play for Brighton. Yeah, I'm not sure you said that when he scored against Brighton from the penalty spot, but don't worry, I'm just trying to... Wood carried my game week 2. Yeah, once he scored that brace, I was thinking this could be a really good week for me, but yeah, it didn't really turn out that way. Is a United defender worth buying? Yeah, I think Mazraoui, if he's fit, he did get subbed off with an injury towards the end of the game, which is concerning. United are just not convincing defensively. They could change manager very soon, but I think one defender is fine. Pratik says, I have both Salah and Palmer in my team for this game week. Would it be overkill to slot in Palmer? No. I mean, wait, I have Salah? Oh, Salah and Haaland. Definitely not overkill, mate. Definitely not. The more the merrier. The only issue is, of course, how you balance it with the rest of your 50-man squad and trying to ensure you don't weaken your starting 11 in the process. But if you're still quite happy with it, I'd definitely be willing to add Palmer now. And Gavardio too, since he is a kid's differential. He did get 9 points, of course, in Game Week 9. No Haaland all year so far, just don't like my team with him in it. That's fair enough. I mentioned it earlier. I think even when I was in 266k in Game Week 3, I triple captained him in Game Week 2. I always said it. I don't like the dependency on Erling Haaland. If he doesn't do well, it feels like, it's not looking too good for the rest of my squad. So yeah, I think those that have gone without Haaland in certain cases have done very well, but not everybody. Some people without Salah and Haaland are flying, but then, it's about the whole 50-man squad, and your captaincy picks are really crucial. Thoughts on Calvert-Lewin? I think he is a sell ultimately, but because of that fixture next week, you might want to hold him one more time. But I said this before Ipswich Town. He blanked again. Ultimately, you have to sell him, I think. Calvert-Lewin to Cunha in Game Week 11 looks really good. Could a transfer window in January change the strategy of FPL managers? Depends on what transfers are made, but not really for me. If anything, the mystery chip in January could change the complexion of the game, but not the transfers. I don't see much activity. If you had a catchphrase, what would it be? I need to think about it. There are certain things I've maybe repeated a lot, in a certain stream or video, but I kind of try to vary it, between every single piece of content. No, it's just I don't know why. For some reason, when I record, well, actually, it's not even recording. When I stream, for some reason, I always get like an allergy or something or an itchy nose. I'm good. I was ill a few weeks ago, but for now, it's not too shabby. Yeah, Gabriel had ice. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, on the knee. I think the commentators also mentioned that that was a knee problem. Of course, not looking too good if that's the case. Who scores more this season, Salah or Haaland? Haaland will score more goals. Who scores more points? I'd be tempted to say Salah. And if that's the case, of course, why go for Haaland? Yeah, both of them, of course, we covered both injuries already. There's not much more I can really say, unfortunately, because, I highlighted the Arteta comment earlier. Even he didn't give much away, and you wouldn't expect him to. With Mazraoui, of course, he was subbed off towards the end of the game. I don't know how serious that injury is either. I would have to use my 2 free transfers that I was saving to bring in Palmer soon. Yeah, I mean, if all goes well, or if at least only one of those players are out, you'd rather focus on the upside with Palmer. I'm planning on using wildcard in Game Week 12, and I could have Watkins. Would you transfer him out to someone for a 2-week... Oh, cut Watkins. For a 2-week punt, it would be Cunha. But I think I just keep Watkins. I could see him doing well against Tottenham. Jimenez or Wissa long-term? I'd say Fulham's fixtures are better long-term. So arguably Jimenez based on that. And you'd also diversify your attack by having Mbeumo as well. But I think it's a close call. And in my opinion, I think Wissa is the better FPL asset if he stays fit. I'll probably say Wissa, but the fixtures would kind of contradict that. I have triple Spurs and double Villa. They're facing off. Who's best to let go? I don't know which players you have, but I'd assume one of them would be Johnson or Solanke. I think one of them would be on the chopping block first. I don't like Spurs defenders, even Pedro Porro, although you could keep him for Ipswich Town, then look to sell. But I don't see clean sheets for Spurs anytime soon. Salah bonus are off, by the way. I hope you're right, mate. I really hope so. That would definitely help. Yeah, like I said, Pratik, I'm all well. It's just a itchy nose. I always have it in a live stream. I don't know why. Yeah, illness, I'm pretty good. I've got nothing for the last few weeks. Best defenders under 4.8 million to buy for the long term. Aït-Nouri. I don't trust Wolves for clean sheets, but he can get assists and goals. So the avenues to points is just much wider than any other defender at that price and below. I still like Mazraoui if he's fit, but that's another kind of question mark. I did mention it earlier. Someone asked me about a defensive line of purely cheap options. I'm pretty sure I said either Aina or Milenkovic, so pick one of those two. Even Murillo is fine. Aït-Nouri, Mazraoui if he's fit. The other two would likely be, if I can remember them, that would be great. I wouldn't go for a Chelsea defender, despite their upcoming fixtures. Yeah, Rico Lewis, who is 4.8, so almost at a kind of mid-price range. And I think the other one, I mean, Robertson's decent, by the way, from Fulham. But I think the other one would possibly be... I actually wouldn't mind a Brighton defender long-term. The question is, who do you go to? Ideally, it'd be Dunk, but he is currently injured. I think Mikolenko will be the other one. But it is worth mentioning, after Game Week 14, I mean, yeah, Everton face Liverpool at home, Arsenal away, Chelsea at home, Man City away. That is a very tough run. You wouldn't want to start any Everton assets in all four of those games, really, on paper. But yeah, Mikolenko as a fourth option is fine. It even says when using mystery chip, managers may need to change their strategy. This has me worried. Yeah, we'll get to that when it comes, but it'll be very interesting, and we'll definitely talk about it once we have confirmation. Yeah, look, Fabianski's been in all of my best wildcard team podcasts as a second choice. I always said he's the most likely to be in goal. You might be asking, why did you go for Valdemarsson on the wildcard? And that's because I had Flecken, you know, kind of penciled in as my goalkeeper, with David Raya being an injured out at the time for Game Week 6. Then I got the kind of late news that Raya was, you know, in the team hotel. I bought Raya in late, and I didn't have enough time to really think about my second choice goalkeeper, which isn't too important overall. But yeah, Fabianski, I wouldn't rely on him in terms of starting him. But yeah, I think as a second choice, he's very, very good. I mean, he's the best 4 million goalkeeper in the game. The way the players were missing sitters and wasting chances, you would think they want Ten Hag out and are doing it on purpose. Yeah, the thing is, though, that's kind of a constant theme throughout Ten Hag's tenure. I think there are certain games where United have played well, or they've created a lot of chances, like Palace away this season, but the finishing is poor. I don't think it's necessarily players missing on purpose. I think it's a lack of quality. I'm not trying to be rude here. I think Garnacho's a promising young player. Rashford has some really good moments. I think Haaland and Xerxes have potential, but none of them are killers. So I think it really comes down to that. Trent frustrating today. He was key in both goals, assisted both assists. Yeah, and that's what I mean. The returns will come for Trent in terms of a clean sheet plus an assist and a 12-pointer. But when that will be, I couldn't tell you for sure. I wouldn't expect it against Brighton. But I think Liverpool, once their fixtures turn for the better, I think Trent will get some massive hauls. So would you keep Watkins for Spurs away, then sell before Liverpool? Possibly, mate, but then again, that's a really short-term punt if you do sell Watkins at that stage. And if you've got a fifth midfielder who looks really promising in that game week, you could just put that player on for Watkins. Best Flecken replacement from Game Week 11 onwards. I still like Onana. But United are suspect defensively, of course. Pickford would be up there, but there is a tough run for Everton between Game Weeks 15 and 18. I think right now, I would probably be looking at the Brighton goalkeeper, Verbruggen. He would be up there in my thinking. Not definitive, but I think either Onana or Verbruggen would definitely spring to mind, and even Raya, if Arsenal's injuries aren't too shabby. I think that's... I can give you some rough players, of course, but a lot can happen from now until the Game Week 12 deadline. But essentially, Cole Palmer would be up there. Probably Jackson as well. You could go for Cunha, Watkins, Rodgers. I think you could go for a Villa defender, but not really feeling it too much. But yeah, once again, comes down to those defenders I said. Nuri, Mazraoui. Yeah, I think those defenders have been covered to death already anyway. Saka, Gabriel if he's fit. If not, you can go for Raya in goal or Saliba. But I think those sorts of options would spring to mind on a Game Week 12 wildcard. I think Rico Lewis still. Hi, Dylan Johnson out. I believe so, Toronto, but there could be the temptation to keep your Spurs assets for Game Week 11 against Ipswich Town. I think Spurs will go ballistic there. They might concede, but I think they'll score 3+ goals easily. Kept Eze since Game Week 1, finally got me some points. Yeah, I had him against Chelsea, but I think I sold him on the Game Week 6 wildcard. One of the few things that didn't really backfire in terms of timing. But yeah, it's good to see some patience rewarded. Foden will score against Bournemouth. Yeah, like I said, Foden has a good record against Brighton and Bournemouth, and I've been backing him to do well in that 3 game week period of Southampton, and of course the next 2 game weeks coming up. Thanks for the list, Dylan. I think Pinnock is a great option as well. Pinnock is a shout. I wouldn't call him a great option though. Not trying to be a smart ass or a grammar Nazi or whatever you want to say. I just don't really see Pinnock. I don't trust Brentford defensively. It comes down to that. Haaland without De Bruyne, totally different proposition. I think it's having no De Bruyne or Rodri. That definitely is something to look at, but he scored a brace in the Champions League against weak opposition, admittedly. He had the chances, though. I think it's just his finishing wasn't on it against Southampton. I didn't watch much of the game, but I do think Garnacho, from the spells I watched, was a bit quiet. He had some moments. I think he put in one really good cross. So, look, from the second half, mainly I'd say the last 20, 30 minutes, I don't think Garnacho did a lot. But Wan-Bissaka had some really good passages of defending. He even, I think felt a bit of cramp with some of the defending he did against Garnacho. Worth a transfer to move from Flecken? For free, possibly. I wouldn't do it for a hit. I think Fulham will score. And I just don't see where the next Brentford clean sheet comes from. But football's a funny game. It could happen when you least expect it. Do you think he has gone this week or after a Chelsea loss? I think after a Chelsea loss. Especially if Chelsea win comprehensively. I don't think he'll be sacked now. Would you have any C assets on the Gameweek 12 wildcard? Possibly Rico Lewis. You could still go for Haaland or Foden, but I think Lewis is enough for now. It is still the best team in the league we're talking about. They're in pole position to win it again. Yeah, Foden in Gameweek 12, but I'd rather have Palmer, Saka, Salah. Aiming to set up with Jackson, Cunha, Welbeck/Wissa front three, and Palmer, Salah, Saka, and Boomer midfield by Gameweek 12-13. That looks like the prime attack based on what we've seen so far this season. I think there'll be a few more curveballs and things will change. And as I mentioned already, it would not surprise me if Haaland starts going ballistic in the tougher games. And of course, he did really poorly in the plum fixtures. The same goes for Arsenal defenders. I think the Gameweek 6 wildcard for a lot of people, there might have been good picks, but bad outcomes. And timing is just so crucial. But what you've mentioned there looks really strong. I don't mind that at all. You could even go for Watkins instead of Jackson if money is no issue. If Gabriel's out, would you go Van Dijk or 8 Nuri? 8 Nuri, based on fixtures, attacking potential, and price. McNeil out, would you go Semenyo or Smith Rowe? I would rather go for Smith Rowe this week. Yeah, I'd rather go for Smith Rowe definitely over Semenyo. Or for one or both, would you play Archer or Vandenberg? I have one free transfer. Yeah, I think I'd do... If McNeil is out, I'd rather start Smith Rowe if that's the question and roll. But then, of course, if Gabriel's also out, I think 8 Nuri is the best transfer. Yeah, Potter's been very underwhelming this season. I mean, he scored in Gameweek 1 against Leicester, but then conceded later on, and then, of course, it's been downhill ever since for him. Of course, one clean sheet against Everton. I think it was in Gameweek 3. Or Gameweek 2, should I say, Gameweek 2. Haaland also scored a hat-trick against Fulham last season and blanked last week. Of course, that's what I mean. Against Bournemouth or Brighton, he could still do a lot of damage, but I think having Salah, Palmer and Saka looks like the best sort of premiums alongside Watkins up front. Brought in Jackson and Saka in place of McNeil and Solanke, W or L. Yeah, no need to spam the chat, mate. Not trying to be rude, but I would appreciate no spamming. Yeah, I think the transfers are fine. I think Solanke is sellable. And even if he does well against Ipswich Town, I can't see myself keeping him beyond Gameweek 11. Sahil says, we already knew AWB was a rock defensively, but I was shocked at how good he was going forward. He was gliding from midfield in our box. Yeah, I still don't think he's good offensively overall, or even on the ball, but yeah, he played well today, and he gave it his all. Maybe a bit more motivated against his former club. Any predicted price rises tonight? Gvardiol and Salah. We did cover that earlier. I might go to it again, but no guarantees. No Name says, hey mate, just subbed after watching your content for maybe 2 months, or it takes me a little while to decide who to sub, but I've liked a lot of the things you said. I appreciate it, and don't worry, I'm a bit like that myself, so I understand. And hopefully you do well in FPL and use your fantasy if you play it. Good luck in Gameweek 10, and let me know how you did in this week. Should Strand Larsen be a real consideration now? Yes, for sure. But I personally think Cunha is worth the extra million, mainly because of bonus points, and despite not having an assist so far this season, Cunha has over 11 key passes and 4 big chances created. I think the assist could also be a factor, so I think Cunha would be my preference. Thanks, Dylan. Have a good evening. Likewise, Adil. And I think you're a Liverpool fan, right? It was a very good game earlier. Best Mazraoui, Gabriel replacement. Already have Gvardiol. 8 Nuri. I'm going to be like a broken clock. but I think Ainur is near the top of my agenda. If I make a defender transfer this week, I'll likely go to him. Apart from him, I'd be looking at... Becomes a bit more difficult afterwards. I still like Rico Lewis, but you do have Gvardiol already, so I'd be less tempted to do that right now. I would possibly look at one of Konate or Trent if funds are no issue. There are viral pictures of VAR official play FPL in Man United versus West Ham. Wonder if the VAR official has Bowen in his team. Yeah, I personally think that was a ridiculous decision. We had plenty of them in today's matches and over the weekend. As soon as I saw that, I just didn't think it was a penalty. Got 4 free transfers with 547 points overall. Yeah, good overall points, but the fact you've got 4 free transfers is even more impressive. Yeah, Jorginho Ruta's a good differential, but I wouldn't buy him now. I'd possibly buy him in game week 12 or 13. Okay, thanks. If Gabriel's out, probably Aït-Nouri then. Don't have Smith-Rowe or Semenya for McNeil. We'll have to consider transfers. Arch and Van den Berg are my only viable bench options. The thing is, though, if I'm looking to buy a budget midfielder, I'd maybe consider Buonanotte or perhaps Garnacho if you can stretch to him. And I think you can afford it by downgrading Gabriel to Aït-Nouri. So that's where things get a bit tricky. Now, buying a United attack against Chelsea isn't exactly the best time, but you've got him in place for game weeks 11 to 13. Had a what a start in FPL, but have been doing much better last 3 game weeks. Let's see if I can get the question again. Got 88 points this week. That's really strong. Sells, Dean, Mazraoui, Aina, Mbuma, Captain, Palmer, Salah, Buonanotte, Rogers, Haaland, and Wood. Really strong squad. I'm surprised people haven't mentioned... sorry for the itchy nose, by the way. There's not much I can do. I'm surprised people haven't mentioned the Sells assist. And just to give my kind of 2 cents on it, I just don't see them removing the assist personally because the intended target was Chris Wood. If you compare that to Heung-min Son, for example, where he didn't intend, for that own goal to happen or, for that to basically be an assist. He basically tried to have like a shot on goal or to assist a Spurs player, but because it hit that, at the time it was Areola and Todibo, you can understand why the assist was removed. The problem I have with the Sells assist, though, is the fact that last season, for example, Gabriel didn't get the assist against Liverpool in the 3-1 win for a similar kind of scenario where he kind of boosts the ball forward, Alisson takes a touch and all this stuff, and in the end, he doesn't get the assist. I think consistency is very important, and the worst call we've seen recently is Jarrod Bowen not getting the assist against Spurs last week. What was your favourite game to watch in Game Week 9? I think Arsenal-Liverpool was a really good game, but I wouldn't say favourite to watch because I've got kind of an emotional attachment, and I think once the injuries happened, I was kind of fearing the worst, and I'll be honest, I'm not really enjoying Arsenal games this season much, mainly because of the amount of red cards and injuries, so it doesn't really... I don't know, I just can't find myself enjoying a lot of the games. So I think favourite game to watch in Game Week 9, I think it would possibly be Brentford. The Brentford game, once again, would be my favourite, but favourite game overall would have been El Clasico, which I saw from start to finish. Broken record, not broken clock. Yeah, broken... Yeah, I know. I probably just chatted shit there. Yes, Liverpool fan, wasn't happy with the way we played first half, but I'll take the draw. Yeah, I'm quite surprised, though, because I think with the last 20 minutes, especially after equalising, I thought Liverpool would go on to win. But I think a draw was fair. I wouldn't go for Virgil van Dijk. I think you go for Konate to save money, and if not, you just go for Trent and you get the bonus points and assists. I wouldn't go for Virgil van Dijk despite the goal today. Solanke and Johnson sell or hold? I'd sell one of them at least. I think Johnson is probably more of a hold than Solanke, but by Game Week 12, you sell both. Nice stuff. 84 points in Game Week 9. Overall, 951,000. Decent stuff. At this stage of the season, that's not a bad rank to be at. And of course, a very high score this week. Haaland to Salah worth it for a part of free transfer plan? Yes. I'm looking at something similar myself. No worries to Stupaki. Is Aït-Nouri 1 card away from 1 match ban? Yes, he is. The same goes for Jackson and Palmer in terms of they're on 3 yellows, so 2 more, and they're suspended. New manager bounce, Man United could do something against Chelsea. True, but it also depends which manager this is, although by that stage you're probably looking at an interim taking charge for Game Week 10. I just don't see Ten Hag being sacked now. Either in the international... Oh, Jesus, my fucking voice. The international break, either there, so in Game Week 12, or after the Chelsea game if United were to lose quite comprehensively. What's the best long-term forward right now? Probably Cunha. I'd be looking at either Cunha or Watkins. I know Watkins has poor fixtures in the next two, but long term, I mean, he's kind of a set and forget, especially if you're looking to replace Haaland and kind of go for Salah, Palmer, and Saka in the midfield. I think Watkins is pretty much the best asset you can go for. I think I'd go for Watkins first, Cunha second, and Jackson third, in terms of a combination of value, fixtures, and form. Brentford-Ipswich Town was definitely the best match this week. Yeah. I didn't watch all of it, by the way, but that was my favourite game. Also a lot of FPL points, although unfortunately no clean sheet for Brentford, but that was to be expected. Should I do a -4? Gabriel to Nuri, Jota to Salah, Solanke to Archer. If Gabriel is out, then yes, I'd do it. I think Salah alone pays off the hit. Nuri is fine. He might not return this week, but it's a good transfer nonetheless. Best 5 million striker and below, yeah, it would be Archer, but you might just want to go for a cheap striker, like even cheaper. We're talking about 4.5 to 4.6 million, because are you going to start Archer or rely on him to come off the bench? Ideally, it wouldn't be the case. Hey Dylan, best free, no haul and attackers for the next 3 weeks. Wissa, Cunha and Wood DCL. Oh no, Haaland, sorry. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks fairly good. I wouldn't go for DCL. I think Chris Wood, Jimenez, Delap even, they're all better options. Strand Larsen. Because you've got Cunha there already, I wouldn't go for Strand Larsen at the same time. But yeah, I think the best front three right now for the next 3 weeks. Yeah, I think you're right about Wissa and Cunha, but I think I'd raise you Jimenez as the third option. What is the problem with Man United? When they have the fixtures that they should win, they bottle it. Whose fault is it, Ten Hag or the players? It's a combination of both. There is a lack of quality in certain areas, but I also think Ten Hag, we haven't seen enough progress or a clear style of play to really kind of justify him being the long-term manager and solution for the club. He has won some cups, which has bought him time, and of course, his record is impressive, you know, reaching an FA Cup final, winning it, and of course the Carabao Cup. But apart from his first season where he finished, was it third? It's not been good enough. Finishing 8th, it could be even worse this year. I think he'll probably be 8th again if it doesn't change. I think he will be sacked. It's just a matter of time. Ten Hag will get a bad Christmas gift this year. Will he even last that long? I'm not so sure. We'll wait and see. Hi Dylan, should I go Salah and Nuri in for Trent and Foden to beat the price rises for both tonight? I'd only do that if you're going to be priced out, mate. I probably wouldn't on the face of it. I think Foden will perform well against Bournemouth and Brighton if he starts those games. And Trent, of course, is the best defender in the game alongside Gabriel, but of course he's possibly injured. I'd probably do it, but not early on. I was going to sell Mazraoui last game week for Nuri, but changed my mind when Mazraoui was going to play Cam whilst getting defender points, but haven't got convinced this game week. Yeah, I would go for Nuri, but not necessarily for Mazraoui. I think Mazraoui offers a lot of value from game weeks 11 to 13. We'll see how serious his injury is, but I wouldn't be too pessimistic. That's a really good start, Twister Parky. Great rank. A long way to go, but hoping to beat my best finish of 30k. It's definitely possible, and hopefully you continue the momentum. Inter versus Juve was superb as well. What was the final score? Was it 3-2 Inter? That was the last thing I saw, I believe. I might have got that wrong. I was too focused on the Arsenal game. Trent and Son or Salah and a 4.5 million defender. As a duo, Trent and Son is better. Especially if you're relying on this 4.5 million defender to start week in, week out. But if I'm buying a set or a pair right now, it would be Salah and Nuri. Both the players and fans have given up on Ten Hag, so the sack is imminent, and I heard they're actively looking for a new manager. I said this before, the fact that United were looking in the manager market after the FA Cup win, that's already quite telling, and because they couldn't get their first choice or someone they're really happy with, they settled with Ten Hag. That's never going to be a long-term solution. No worries, OND. Great name, by the way. I just don't want to butcher your names, but thank you very much. Thoughts on double Arsenal defence going forwards? I still think they can offer value, but on the face of it, I think one's more than enough, especially with the current injury problems. Gabriel could miss the next couple of weeks. Jurriën Timber, we'll wait and see how serious that is, but I think he'll be available for Newcastle. Saliba's back, which is a big boost, but it's not looking too good. Haaland and Foden to Watkins and Salah for a -4. I'd say no, simply because I think City beat Bournemouth, and Foden in particular I think can do really well in that game, and also against Brighton. Now, is Watkins and Salah the better duo long term? I think so, but I wouldn't take a hit for it this week. Choose 2, Wood, Cunha, Welbeck. Yeah, Welbeck's another one, to be fair, that I haven't even mentioned. He's easily up there amongst the best forwards in the game. Now, with Brighton specifically, their fixtures technically turn for the better now. You know, they've got a good run of fixtures. Well, actually, no, I've looked at this wrong. I've been looking at it from Gameweek 12. Liverpool away is not a good fixture, trust me. So if we look at the exact game week where things look better for Brighton, we are pretty much looking at game week 12. So Bournemouth away, Southampton at home, Fulham away, Leicester away, Palace at home, West Ham away, Brentford at home. That's a great run of fixtures. So to answer your question, I think I would go for Cunha, and I'd go for Chris Wood right now. But it's worth mentioning that Forest's fixtures over the next 5-6 are pretty poor. But I think Danny Welbeck is an avoid for the next two, and you buy him in Game Week 12. Wow, Inter Juve ended 4-4. Jesus Christ. I think Juve were winning 2-1, then 3-2 Inter. That is ballistic if that was the case. Going without Haaland is easy, as we have many good cheap forwards this season. Yeah, if this continues, then certainly that is the case. But let's wait and see. This is a long season. A lot will happen. What do you think about Ashley Young from Mazraoui? Well, Young has been fairly consistent, going under the radar, getting 5-6 points every single week, either a clean sheet or an assist. But I think Mikolenko saves you a bit more money. And I'd rather go for Aït-Nouri for a similar price. And also with Mazraoui, if he is available, I think he's still worth keeping. Haaland plus McNeil to Cunha and Saka. I'd only do that if McNeil is ruled out. If McNeil's available, I'd keep them as things stand. I think Saka won't score that many points against Newcastle and Chelsea. I actually thought Liverpool was kind of his best chance of getting a big return, which he did. Let me double check this, by the way, because someone did say Salah's out of the bonus points. I very much doubt it. You know, how is he going to go from, 2-3 bonus points to 0? We'll have a look now to see if that's the case. So yeah, smash the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. It'd be greatly appreciated. So the final bonus points, yeah, I don't know what he was saying. Salah's got 3, Saka 2, and Marino 1. So yeah, don't expect that to change too much. Don't forget midweek cup games, people. Some people may be rested, but you don't want your early transfers to get injured. I was thinking on Son last week, glad I didn't. Yeah, exactly that. If possible, always try to roll or hold your transfers until the very end, because information is so important. And unless you're going to be priced out, why chase the extra 0.1, 0.2 million? It can help out, and of course, risk can be rewarded, but I think it is just not worth it in most cases. We should have just appointed Hansi Flick. Despite the FA Cup win, we would be in the title with him. I disagree. I think Hansi Flick's a top manager, but I don't think United will be in a title race. I think they'll be in contention for 4th, easily, maybe even for 3rd, but I think a title race against City is a bit too far. Eze played well today. More returns soon, hopefully. Kept him since the start. Yeah, Tottenham, it was kind of an awkward time for people to kind of sell or hold Eze this week against Tottenham, because I think, it's a decent fixture for him on paper. And the next few also look quite promising. But, yeah, Eze's still been very underwhelming. He needs to do a lot to kind of reward those that have kept faith of him. I'm not sure how you would fit Saka, Salah and Watkins right now and with one free transfer. Well, there is a solution to that, Zen. It's selling Haaland. I know it might seem a bit, extreme, but I said this even before the Southampton game where I backed him to score a brace or hat-trick. I think there is genuinely a conversation to be had to go about Haaland and spread the funds, and that's been clear for quite some time now. Palmer or Salah in? I'd rather have Palmer, simply because he's cheaper. I also think in terms of point scoring from now until the end of the season, it will be very tight. This week, I think Salah might edge it in terms of the captaincy, but I think Palmer for me still. I'm kind of considering a full stack of premium midfielders by Game Week 12-13. So am I. Especially if I sell Haaland, I think that will be the play. Probably keep Mbeumo for now anyway. Go for Palmer, Saka, Salah. Maybe Foden, but I'm not so sure about that. We've also got a lot of budget midfielders who offer great value. Depends on Ineos' patience on Ten Hag. If the result keeps getting worse and Ineos lose the patience, Ten Hag will be sacked sooner. Yeah, I think if Chelsea win comprehensively, he'll get sacked. But I don't think that'll be the case. I don't think, United could get a result there, or at least not get beaten badly. But yeah, it all depends on that Chelsea game, I think. Salah no bonus points would just ruin my FPL. Yeah, Don't worry, mate. He's got maximum bonus points and 10 overall. What do you think about Semenyo starting against City? I disagree that City have a very bad defence. They're vulnerable. Can you get at them? Of course you can. I think Bournemouth could definitely score. But not really feeling Semenyo. I mean, you could be onto something, mate, but in terms of my setup, for example, if Gabriel's fit, I'd rather start him, Morgan Rogers, even Solanke, dare I say, but even that's debatable right now. Look, if you back Bournemouth to score, or even Semenyo to do bits, then it might be the right call, but I personally just don't see myself starting Semenyo. I mean, look what he did with Barca, consisting mainly of academy players, and compare what he would do with United. Yeah, but if you compare the Barcelona team to United, I think there's far more quality in that Barcelona team. If you do a combined 11, I don't see many United players getting in there. Based on current form as well, you know, even Casado, for example, most people would say him. Of course, in terms of career, you'd go for Casemiro and stuff like that, but I think there's a lot more quality in that Barcelona team. Not to mention, you've also got a, dare I say, easier league, easier opponents, which does help, but what Hansi Flick has been doing is remarkable with the injuries and the situation that Barcelona find themselves in. I think Thomas Frank would be a great at Manchester United. I think he's a good manager, but I don't think so. I don't think Thomas Frank would be great at United. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm only getting red arrows and can't get our 3 million rank. I feel like selling Haaland to go differential. Yeah, it might be time to do so, but look, Haaland's still capable of some big returns against Bournemouth and Brighton. He's always can score a goal against anybody. But after that kind of period of a few red arrows in a row, and at the rank you're at, which isn't terrible, by the way, for this stage of the season, I can understand your frustrations and maybe concerns about kind of wanting to change things up. Got Greaves, Gabriel, and Johnson as injured defenders. And Cooked want to go Solanke and, is that Mitman? To Cunha and Palmer, but now, is that Mitoma? Yeah, I'd rank Palmer higher, as mentioned earlier, David. Yeah, I'd focus on the injured players, of course, but with Gabriel, just wait for more injury updates. There is still a chance he plays against Newcastle, although admittedly it's very, very low. He'll get the highest points in FPL when this new season, when the season ends. Give me the top 10. I have no idea, mate. In no particular order, I'm guessing you want an order. I think either Palmer or Salah will be first. So they'll be my top two. Haaland, Saka, that's kind of like my top 4. I would also go for 5th place. Son. I think if Son stays fit, he'll be up there. Not necessarily in the top 5 or 6, but I think in the top 10. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Gabriel, if he's not out for too long. I would also say Ollie Watkins, of course. Ollie Watkins, so that's 8 players, I think, roughly. Maybe I miscounted. The remaining 2 players is difficult. So just to summarize, so let's make sure that I've actually got the list. I'm going to write it down myself just to make sure. So I'm going to say Palmer, Salah, Haaland, Saka, Son, Alexander-Arnold. We'll put Watkins ahead of Alexander-Arnold. I think he'll score more points. Who are the others? So we've got 3, 4, 5, 6 here, but I'm pretty sure there's someone else I mentioned I haven't done so yet. Yeah, Gabriel, basically an Arsenal defender. Who else could we get? I know people would say Mbeumo, and that could be a shout, but not too sure. I don't think Chris Wood will end up in the top 10. I mean, he could, but I don't... Tricky one, actually. Top 5 forwards, yes. Could it be top 3? Arguably. I just think midfielders generally have the advantage, so that's why I tend to favour them. I think at the rate he's going, I think Danny Welbeck could really... he easily top 15, top 20. I think so. Jackson I like as well. I'll put Jackson in there for now. And Gvardiol. Am I missing Mbeumo? Maybe I am. Put Mbeumo in there. Alright, so a rough kind of top 10 I'm putting here is... Actually, I've already got 10, don't I? I'm a bit stupid, aren't I? So, Palmer, Salah, Haaland, Saka, Son, Watkins, Alexander-Arnold, Gabriel, Jackson, and Mbeumo. But a lot depends on injuries. That's kind of a rough top 10. The order of some is not really thought about too much. Yeah, I think Graham Potter could work at United in terms of playing style, Maybe not in terms of winning mentality, but I think he could build the foundations for a successful United team in the future. Who to captain, Haaland or Salah next game week? On paper, it would be Haaland. Sorry, it might be time to quit. It might be Salah for me on paper, but football is not played that way. And, you know, for example, in Game Week 6, people wildcarded 2 free Arsenal players in, plum fixtures. The Arsenal defence have been terrible ever since, and they kept the clean sheets in tougher games. And even with Haaland, you know, first 5 game weeks, some tough games in there like Arsenal at home and Chelsea away. He did better in those matches than Southampton at home, really. So, yeah, I'd say Salah, but who even knows at this point? No worries, David. I like Jorginho as a budget midfielder. I'd look to buy him in Game Week 12, but not yet, of course, with Liverpool and Man City up next. Before the season, Casado and Kubarsi were nobodies, so imagine what he would do with Mainu, maybe Ugarte and De Ligt Martinez. Yeah, I mean, you make a fair point, but I'll be honest, I don't really rate Ugarte or De Ligt too highly. I think Martinez is a decent centre-back. Mainu has a lot of potential. I do like him, to be fair. You know, arguably he's better than Casado, at least in terms of what he's shown so far, but very small sample sizes. But then what about Lewandowski, Yamal, Rafinha? Are you honestly going to compare that United attack? I think no one gets in, not even Garnacho. Bruno Fernandes has had moments, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to be a season. I know the manager's really important and he can make such a big difference. But even to a certain extent, you could argue this is a manager bounce with Hansi Flick, and there will be some tougher periods later this season. But I do think he's a top quality coach, and I've always said that. Yeah, Marco Silva's underrated. I wouldn't want him at United, though, in a big club. It does seem harsh, but that's the way I see it. Yeah, I did say Mbeumo and Jackson. They both made it in the end. Let's see if I can kind of order this a little bit better. So I'm going to go for... All right, if I had to give a specific ranking, I would go for something like this, I think. Did I just F this up? I think I did. Oh, no. Okay. Let's do a numbered list. Okay. We'll see how inaccurate this will be by the end of the season. Son is picking up quite a few injuries, to be fair. Yeah, I think Liverpool get quite a few clean sheets and Trent will get attacking returns, so I'll go for him there. So, assuming that Gabriel's injury isn't too serious, doesn't miss too many games, I'm going for Gabriel in 10th, Jackson 9th, Mbeumo 8th, Trent 7th, Son 6th, Watkins 5th, Saka 4th, Haaland 3rd, Salah 2nd, and Palmer 1st. But look, that could easily change. If Haaland scores back-to-back hat-tricks in the next 2, then we'll be saying he will score the most again. Gabriel for Reece James? I wouldn't go for Reece James. I just can't trust his fitness. I'm sorry. If you want to take a punt, then fair enough, but not for me. I've been so unlucky past 2 weeks. Transferred out Salah to Saka. Saka didn't play, then went from Saka to Son. Son didn't play, and Saka scored. Yeah, you got to look at the funny side, right? It's some bad timing and just bad luck with those transfers. Hopefully, that's kind of gone, and your next few moves don't backfire. Likewise, Hill, see you very soon. It's funny that Nuno Tavares, a defender in Serie A Fantasy, got the same score as Haaland triple captaincy in FPL. Yeah, Tavares has had a great start to the season. No, Flick hasn't signed for United. Why would he leave Barcelona, mate? Come on. You're probably trolling there anyway. Deleted user says, hey, I'm new here. Should I use my triple captain on Saka, Palmer, Mbeumo, Haaland, or Wood? In Game Week 10, my favourite captaincy option would be Palmer, but I wouldn't triple captain any of those players this week. You don't need to use it that early. You will have plum fixtures for all those players, like Palmer will face Southampton at home later this season, even Ipswich Town at home. I already used it, for example, in Game Week 2, and I was very happy with the result, but yeah, I wouldn't look to triple captain somebody this week. Diaz possibly, but I think the minutes will be shared with Gakpo, and Diaz is fairly inconsistent with goals and assists, generally speaking. If you look at his time at Liverpool, I don't think he's like Sadio Mane, who will get you like a goal or assist every 2-3 games, you know, kind of on a consistent basis. Of course, he's done very well this season, but I don't know. I think maybe there's a case for Diaz over Gabriel in that list, but I don't think he gets in over, you know, the top 5 really that I've mentioned: Son, Trent, Mbeumo, and Jackson on top of that. I predict Foden to pick it up. Yeah, possibly, and I hope he does for my sake because I bought him. All right, thank you. A replacement for Rice. McNeil, if he's fit, or Garnacho. And I think if I'm buying now, it would be the Argentine. Should I play or bench Welbeck? Based on his form, I mean, you could easily start him. I wouldn't mind it, but depends on your other options, Farid. I'd probably bench him. I assume you have a good option in place. If Gareth Southgate gets appointed as United manager, that if could be better or worse for United. Will United fans accept him? Well, they'll back him at the start. I think United tend to be quite supportive of managers, but I don't think Southgate would be a good appointment. Trent so high, was thinking to sell him. Well, defenders obviously are a disadvantage compared to midfielders with goals and assists. Of course, we know that, but I think Liverpool get a lot of clean sheets this season. There will be a drop-off, of course, and we've seen it recently, and I said that will be the case with the fixtures and Alisson obviously being injured, but I think Trent has also been unlucky with the lack of attacking returns. I think he deserves more. Like I said, I would sell Rice for Garnacho if you can. Against Chelsea at home, it's not necessarily the best time to do that, though. Chris Wood's injury is not that serious, as covered earlier. He said it himself, he should be good for the next game. Of course, players tend to be optimistic with their own prognosis, or diagnosis, should I say, but yeah, I wouldn't be concerned. Yeah, I think Solanke's a sell. I'll talk more about that in the Transfers podcast, so keep your eyes peeled for it. I really like Matoma or Rutter for Brighton's fixtures. At this moment in time, I prefer Rutter over Matoma, but you're right to mention both of them. That's a great run of fixtures they have, and Danny Welbeck up front will be another one. He's the best option for Brighton for sure. And I wouldn't even mind a double up offensively, although I think Welbeck is probably more than what you need. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this stream to over 200 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 35 subscribers and beyond. On Tuesday, during the UCL Fantasy Deadline stream, we did hit 29k, so thank you very much for your support. And you can also just like the video because it costs nothing and supports the channel. The same goes for follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM. If you want to support the channel even further, there is Patreon, which is patreon.com/DylanRCM, and the Discord server, which is free to join, of course, the FPL League, Drafthound, as well as Spotify. Even as a YouTube channel member, by the way, you can click the join button and gain early access to my videos. And every month or so, I do give 10 memberships to those watching in the live streams. Why was Eze's goal not given? Didn't he have his foot on centre line when the pass was given? I didn't see that specific incident. I only saw the goal and Eze's brilliance for that, which led to Mateta scoring. I didn't see the Eze disallowed goal. Enjoyed the session, sub. Thank you very much, Pratik, and I'm glad to hear it. Hopefully you enjoy the next few videos and live streams as well. Between Smith Rowe and Welbeck, who should I play in Gameweek 10? I'd play Smith Rowe, but more often than not, I'd say Welbeck is the far better FPL option. But yeah, this week I would go for Smith Rowe. I don't trust Brentford defensively. I think there'll be plenty of goals in that game. I wouldn't get Southgate for a non-league team. No, that's a bit harsh. He did a good job of England, but you could argue with a better manager, England could have gone over the line. That's certainly a debate that could be had. Going to go back to my team for a little while, of course, but we are going to wrap up. If you have any last questions or thoughts, let me know in the live chat and we will go through them. And yeah, so tomorrow the plan is to do a Trans Tips podcast. Then on Tuesday, the wild card, probably the team selection on Wednesday, predicted lineups on Thursday. But if not, it'll be like one day after what I'm just saying there. And if you want to see anything else, it could be rating your teams or something that you feel would be beneficial for your FPL experience, then let me know in the comment section and live chat. Yeah, slight joke there. Yeah, of course, of course. Who is your worst FPL pick that you regret buying? Oh, if it's in history, I have to think about it. But this season, I think Salah, buying Salah and selling him, the timing of when I did those moves has been really, really annoying. You know, maybe it's just myself to blame. I wouldn't say he's the worst transfer I've made, but I think with the expectation, captaining him in both weeks that I had him, and then him really flopping, essentially, selling him, then he got a double-digit haul, that would be up there, I have to say. Not because of Salah being terrible, but just the timing of buying and selling. Apart from that, I'm trying to think. It's probably somebody else. I'm going to have to look at my team again, because this season is already a blur. It already is. So if I look at my squad throughout the year, Gordon would be another frustration for me, because the 2 times he has scored this season, the first time I benched him, he got 10 points, and the second I sold him on the wildcard. Every other time I started him, he blanked. So I think Gordon would be one of the top kind of flops for me. Anything else? Let's see if I can get this. I think there's somebody else that I'm kind of forgetting about. Chris Wood is definitely the best. I'm going to make that very clear right now. By far the best option. Yeah, I think the worst is probably Anthony Gordon, based on the circumstances. That definitely springs to mind. Yeah, I'll stick with him for now. Red Arrow triple captain played 3.6 million rank. Horrible season for me. Yeah, but it's very early on. You can still get to top 100k or beyond, trust me. Of course, you're going to have to get some captaincy decisions spot on. The transfers as well need to be on it, but look, it's still very early on and we've got so much room for maneuver, a lot of games to be played, and also the difference between ranks is minimal at this point. My worst FPL pick was Foden in 22-23 when Pep benched him for 5 weeks. Oof. Yeah, Foden was an FPL troll for me back in the day. Always did well for me in UCL Fantasy, but in Fantasy Premier League he was very underwhelming. Do you know if McTominay is falling tonight? Would get me priced out of my plans. I doubt it. So yeah, as covered... Oh, okay. Maybe I'm just stupid. According to Fantasy Football Hub, Matoma will go down in price, but it's not a guarantee. There is a chance that it doesn't happen tonight, but it is over minus 100%, so that would imply that it's very likely that he's going to go down in price at 1:30 a.m. UK time with the change of clocks, of course, we got overnight. I hate this game. Yeah, I felt like that a lot this season. Haven't really enjoyed it, although you could argue that I think one thing I do like about the game this season is there's more choice. You can go about Haaland and do really well and stuff like that. The captaincy is more open, but yeah, sometimes I just hate the game as well. Yeah, I think DCL's a sell. The problem is he faces Southampton away next, and that's a plum fixture. But ultimately, you know, going to Cunha, Wissa, Jimenez, even if it backfires this week, it will definitely pay dividends long term. Not to mention Strand Larson. There's other forwards like Jackson and Watkins. There's so many strikers better than DCL. But in terms of budget forwards, we're blessed that Danny Welbeck in Gameweek 12 would be a great shout too. So yeah, DCL is a sell. They made the game very sweaty and try hard. Look, I'm not doing great, but I'm not so sure about that. I think the prices are quite good because it does kind of maybe promote. I don't know. I think the template is a bit weaker this season, which I do like. But I see where you're coming from. You know, it does seem like, you know, everyone's kind of doing really well this season, or at least it's becoming more difficult to do well. Green Arrow 109k. I bounced back. Thanks for the advice, Dylan. No worries to Hill. I'm glad to hear someone else doing better than me, although that's not too difficult. Caldy says I have 5 free transfers and a wild card. If I activate it, do I lose my 5 free transfers? No, you don't. So that could be a very powerful play from you. I don't think he'll be dropped, but of course Beto scored the late equaliser. DCL isn't in great form goal-scoring wise, that's putting it lightly. I think he'll start against Southampton, but ultimately I'd sell him. Honestly, even against Southampton, if I had him, I think I'd just sell him. I'm thinking Haaland and Rodgers to Cunha and Salah, don't know anymore. I think that looks really good. As much as I like Rodgers and Haaland, that looks like an upgrade right now. Actually, Dennis, when he got a red card and I think I captained him, was a bad transfer. Yes. A lot of people triple captained him that week as well. Thankfully, I didn't, as far as I remember, but I did captain him, and the rest is history. No worries, Caldy. Just for future reference, if possible, try not to spam the chat, because I do get through every question when possible, but I do appreciate it. But yeah, that pretty much wraps things up. It has been a pleasure talking to you for the past 2 hours or so. Just going to give you one final look at my team. So Raya with 0 points after being booked. Vandenberg conceding 3 goals and only delivering 1 point. Thankfully, those on my bench didn't do too much better, but Gabriel is now injured and could miss Game Week 10, as I'll discuss later this week as well with more information. Rico Lewis, the only one in my defensive line to get a clean sheet or any returns. Mikolenko blanked. Mbuma with a massive 15-point haul. Cole Palmer with 7 points, and if we refresh this, yes, the points have been updated, so Palmer with a double-digit return. Foden was transferred in for Saka this week. That obviously backfired. Otherwise, it would have been a nice green arrow into the top 1 million for the first time since Game Week 5, I believe. Morgan Rogers blanked and was booked. Chris Wood was the star of my show with a brace on Friday night, and I thought back then it could have been a great week for me, but it wasn't meant to be. Haaland, as my captain, only got 1 goal in the first 5 minutes, and somehow Man City weren't able to really add to that tally, and Haaland missed some big chances. Solanke was once again ineffective, this time against Palace, as Spurs gave the Eagles their first Premier League victory of the season. Semenyo got booked on my bench, as mentioned earlier. Gabriel picked up an injury against Liverpool, and Greaves is out for the next couple of weeks, it seems. So a few issues in my team, a lot of transfer plans, which I'll talk about in my team selection too. Yeah, Leipzig top of the table, unbeaten. Are they doing a Leverkusen? Never say never, but I'm going to say no. I don't think they're going to do that, especially across all competitions. Leverkusen's so close to a historic treble, but no, I don't think so. They might finish second or third. I ultimately think Bayern Munich or Leverkusen will win the league, and Leipzig will finish third. I think Solanke is a sell. There is a debate to keep Solanke, and this also covers Crown's question, to keep him for Game Week 11 against Ipswich Town at home, but apart from that, I think Solanke is just a sell. It's just a question of timing. Do you do it now, in Game Week 10, or in Game Week 12 when they face City away? I think ultimately the answer is the same, and I could see myself selling him in Game Week 10, but it all depends on my other injuries like Gabriel, and do I want to buy Salah this week? All of that will have an influence on my transfers in the forward line as well, of course, and I have so many different options despite only having 2 free transfers. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. It has been a blast. If you have any more questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below, and join the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram to keep the conversation going. And as mentioned earlier, there are many more links like the FPL League, the Discord server, and also my Patreon and channel memberships. Take care everyone. Hope you had a great Game Week 9, and if not to worry. There's still a lot of football left to be played, and Game Week 9 is not the be-all and end-all. It's all about how you finish by the time we get to Game Week 38. I hope you do really well in the next couple of weeks too. Check out my UCL Fantasy and FPL content. There's a lot more videos and live streams headed your way, so I'll see you very soon.